and welcome back to Lorehammer. My name is Eric.
Yo, Eric. Hey, it's Mark. How's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Oh, so good. It's weird. We're not in studio with each other right now.
Yeah, this is definitely our first time trying to do a remote recording on a main episode.
Yeah. So yeah, it's weird. We can see each other's face, and that's nice because, I know your touches aren't far away as I see your hand go towards the screen. So that's nice.
I'll keep my hands below the camera.
Oh, God.
So at any moment, they may creep forward,
I don't like it, but I like it. Well, welcome to Lorehammer, the only podcast with lore and hammer in the title.
Definitely the worst podcast with lore and hammer in the title.
Yeah. We have a very special and interesting episode today.
For our 100th episode, too.
Yeah, of course. It's big stuff, big things. I didn't think I'd make it to 100. I thought I would have died from dysentery long ago from our filthy mouse.
This isn't the Oregon Trail, Mark, We have pills for that if you're struggling with it.
But yeah, we got a couple really cool things lined up this episode. We actually have an interview with none other than Graham Mcneill coming up. One of the fucking biggest 40K authors out there. New York Times best-selling, champion kisser, I've been told.
I believe it. After listening to that man talk, wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. We talked for we originally set up we just need a half hour of your time. And then we talked for an hour and a half, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, it's a long interview, but I think it was full of great conversation. So
yeah, a little bit about some other things that he's up to. But yeah, we'll get into that. But before we do, we're just going to say, hey, if you're listening to the show and you like what you hear, don't forget to support us on Patreon. $1 goes a long way. So yeah, definitely go to Lorehammer Patreon and see if any of our things catch your interest.
Yeah, and if you do support us on Patreon, then make sure you come over to our Discord. We're doing this really cool Armies on Parade thing this year, specifically for our Discord members or our Patreon members, where we'll give you a task for a month to complete. And then if you complete it, we will mail out a cool pin to you. And then by the end of the year, you should have a whole collection of pins and, never mind, a whole army with a board. So,
Yeah. It will be pretty sweet.
Yeah. And what you should do is you should make little places on your board for those pins. You got to show off your pins and the board at the same time.
Exactly. That makes sense to me. Yeah. Very cool. I can't wait we started that now, so I can't wait to see this month, kind of all the stuff piling in and flowing in.
Exactly.
Very cool.
Well, I guess what we should do is just jump right in to our first interview, or our interview with Graham.
Yeah. And then we'll come back and chat some more 40K. See you then.
All right.
Well, welcome to Lorehammer's first official interview with truly someone famous, magnanimous, someone who actually has a role to play in 40K. Welcome to Graham Mcneill.
Hello.
Thanks
for having me on, guys.
Very good. How are you?
I'm very good tonight. Very good. How are you guys?
Excellent. I'm super excited to have this meeting and get to see you. I'm not going to lie, you were the first book I ever read with 40K. Yeah, and you're actually the most recent book that I started to read but haven't finished. So
I am the alpha and the omega.
That's right, the beginning and the end.
What was the first and what was the latest?
So first was False Gods. I mean, that was what Mark and Christian both introduced me to. They said, look, if you got to start somewhere, you have to start at the biggest slog you'll ever go through. And that's boot me right off. And then recently, Mark and I have started to build our own library of 40K books, and he pulled out Nightbringer probably 4 or 5 months ago and was like, this book, you got to read it.
Going all the way back.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a struggle, and I'm working my way through it, but I'm going to get there. I can feel it.
Good man.
Well, I think what we're going to do is we have some notes that we prepared, and we would like to just talk a lot about your history, a lot of questions about your professional life, a lot of 40K chat, and I think we can just dive right in. Hey, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the first question I think we need to ask every single person is, what drew you to the world of Warhammer 40K? I mean, for you, it must have been eons ago, but dig deep back into the
back in the dim and distant.
Yeah.
I mean, I started sort of down this road, very young when I read, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, as all of us do in our youth. And it was when I was 11, my mum got me a copy of The Warlock of Firetop Mountain, the first of the fighting fantasy books. And I read that, devoured it, loved it. The idea of being part of the story and helping be the participant and the creator at the same time was, something magical to me. So I got into all of them, and that was my gateway drug that led me to D&D and all the role-playing games. And I was always much more of a DM. I was always a DM, rarely a player.
A classic.
I don't know if that's like a particularly writerly thing or a control freak thing or whatever, but I liked telling the story. I've been a player many times, and plenty of friends have run campaigns and adventures, but I much prefer being the DM for those things. And as the adventures that I, played or wrote and ran, they all ended up getting fairly ambitious in their scope, beyond dungeon bashes or defeat the bandit or
some real world building going on, I'm sure. I can only imagine. Sure. Just stacks of loose leaf notebooks next to you.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it became, especially when, the stories got more and more ambitious, and, I needed, fate of nations, battles kind of things, and, role-playing systems are not built for that level of mass combat, unless you're sort of, telling a story as you move through it, but actually fighting that game is not really, feasible with role-playing rules. So I went from there. I got the AD&D battle system, which got us lots of counters, which was great. But again, as a system, it was not great. And there was a Games Workshop store in Glasgow at the time, and I saw the miniatures in the window and popped in, and I was chatting to the guys there, and I walked out with a whole bunch of Chaos Warriors, Chaos Marauders, and the orange hardback Warhammer, the 3rd edition one, and we started playing. All our D&D games, they would always generally in one campaign or another feature a big battle of some sort to sort of finish off the campaign with, and gradually the battles tended to become more integral to our gaming than the role playing. So we played more Warhammer than we did D&D and so on. So I was a big Warhammer player, still am. Got my Empire army on the shelf behind me. But then when 40K came out, I was like, I'll pick this up, see what it is. I'm science fiction wargaming. I like a bit of sci-fi and so on, but I'm not sure that that kind of gaming system is for me. But then when I read the Rogue Trader book back in like the mid 80s, it just blew me away. For somebody raised on Star Trek and Star Wars, to see a universe this baroque, this gothic, this dark, really, really spoke to me. And I was like, oh my God, this is just the best thing ever. And just seeing all these, the carrion corpse of the Emperor and the 1,000 space marines ranked up in front of the fortress monastery. And
some of that Ian John Miller. Blanche artwork originally is like inspiring to all of us. We look at like that one image and we can still picture it to this day type thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, we played, we dabbled in the Rogue Trader, and suddenly it was like, that was becoming the dominant, Warhammer was getting eased out in favor of 40K, and, the natural, storytelling instincts that I flatter myself I possess, that, it was always about, okay, why is this battle happening, and what's the aftermath of it? Then how does that feed into the next one? And, kind of before I knew what a narrative campaign was, that's what we were playing. We were playing lots of 40K, and I was writing all the stories and the characters and the worlds for why this battle happened, what came of it. And, like you say, you built up stacks and stacks of ring binders of planets, worlds, regiments, characters, and so on. And eventually, again, I thought, I need to start writing this down and making actual stories out of it. And that was, again, each one was like we introduced an element into our gaming, and then that became the big thing. And narrative games were, every game we played was a narrative game. There was never any just, okay, I've got 1,500, you've got 1,500.
Sure.
Let's throw down. It was always a story.
Yeah, there's something sterile about removing that narrative from those games. And you feel like you miss kind of the thematic and cinematic mark when you just play like that matched play.
Yeah. I mean, you build that. I mean, that's the thing, with talking to my son, he's a big, he likes his Apex Legends, his Overwatch, and so on. And I'm much more, when it comes to video games, I'm all about story based. And I'm God of Wars, your Skyrims, your Subnauticas, things with a story behind it, so I can feel involved into what I'm doing of it. And we had a discussion about, like, why do you? He's like, I'm like, why do you like these? And there's nothing to it. There's no story to it. But he was talking about how, you make the story every time you play it in the moments that happen within the game. As my character was on the balcony, it was shooting down and got his octane and blew him off the wall. And then
we all have that story.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, okay, so even, there's nothing wrong with points playing at all. It's a great way to play, get, random, games in at your game store or tournament and so on. And you make the story as you play it. But I was always very much about going into the game knowing this is what we're here for. This is what the story is. And here's, my captain who's fought in the 3 previous battles and been triumphant and so on.
Yeah, and now it's your opponent's goal to now kill that captain.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
right. You would lose games occasionally, both sides, by fixating on, well, that guy took out my dreadnought last game, so he's going down this game, and you would pour everything into getting that guy, but lose the battle, and then that would feature into the narrative, and you would build out from there. And the more stories that I built out from our games, the more I decided, like, I'm going to take all this and I'm going to actually make a novel out of this, because I read a novel when I was, I don't know, early teens, I think it was, and I remember thinking, this was just garbage, man. I could do better than this. And it was literally a light bulb moment where I was like, okay, put your money where your mouth is, then go do it.
So you've been writing for a long time. Yeah,
I've been writing. I mean, I've been telling stories since like elementary school.
Wow.
Writing them down, and nothing serious, because it was just like in the sense of, well, I think I could do something with this. It was just like I loved writing stories. I loved running kind of D&D type things for my pals, just making up as I went along as to what was in the next cave and so on. Very basic stuff, but I've always told stories and written them down. So a pal of mine and we wrote half a horror novel in high school before high school ended, and we all went our separate ways. And I learned to type writing a fantasy novel when I was about 15 with a computer my dad brought back from his office. So yeah, I've always written and told stories, and it's just I'm very fortunate that now people give me money to do it.
Do you have education at all in writing? Like, did you go to any post-secondary for classes and stuff?
No, I think because I did a talk once at one of the universities in Nottingham to the MA in creative writing class. Yeah. And I knew the girl that taught the class, and I remember saying to her beforehand, I was like, I'm like the worst person you could have to talk here, because I've had no education in writing whatsoever, and I'm speaking to this class that they're paying to do, but okay. So
your first note is like, make sure you have paper and a pencil.
Don't do what I did, but no, nothing formal. But I've had a lot of. I read a lot, obviously, and the best, it's a cliche, but the best writers are the best readers. So I learned a lot by just, trying to analyze in a, young-minded sense of why do I like this book? What is it about it that I like? How did, David Gemmell, Clive Barker, Tolkien do the thing that I like, and what made me like it? And I have been very fortunate over the years to have worked alongside people who were way better writers than I was. And I was able to learn from them, to listen to them, to copy them in some regards. And, it's like anything else. You want to be good at something or better at something, surround yourself with people who are really good at it and learn from them. And I was very fortunate in my path through life that I was, especially from my workshop years, to be surrounded by people who were great, fantastic writers, and I learned everything I could from them.
Yeah. No, that's sweet. Like, experience is its own training. You don't always need to do it all. So,
yeah, I mean, when I first came to workshop, I was working alongside, Nigel Stillman, Andy Chambers, Gav Thor,
those are some
Alessio,
names.
Rick Priestley, and
can we have their number too?
Yeah.
Again, very few of them are still at workshop anymore, but I still in contact with quite a lot of them. But yeah, they were all, the big names in Warhammer and Games Workshop, and I learned at the feet of the masters.
Well, speaking of path of life and how you got to where you are, you started working for Games Workshop in February of 2000.
2000, yeah.
After a pretty big career shift for you. You were an architect?
Yeah, I've got a degree in architecture and a degree in building surveying, and I was a permanent student for a while. And to be honest, I only worked in the field. I worked in an office in Glasgow, then London, then back in Glasgow, in the architect's office. Did that for maybe 3-4 years at the most. And before, I was stuck doing a lot of health and safety stuff, which was the big thing at the time. Buildings had to have like their own instruction manuals and stuff, because usually you would just hand it over with a key and say, "There you go, mate." So building out these health and safety library things, CDM books, was a big thing in our office at the time. And it was, for me, certainly, it was just torture, because it was just a beginning. So you had to call up people you'd finished the contract 4 years ago and say, "Hey, can I have the thing that you did 4 years ago?" And everyone's like, "Get lost."
Yeah, you're like, "I definitely have that."
Yeah, exactly. So I remember it was one day I came out of the office at lunchtime going, "I cannot do this for the rest of my life. I just can't. I'm gonna go to an early grave if I have to do this for another week, let alone another 50 years or whatever." And that afternoon, I went down to the local, newsagent sandwich shop underneath our office to get some lunch, and I was like, "Oh, there's this month's White Dwarf. I haven't got that for a few months. Pick it up." And there was an advert in it for a staff writer in the design studio in Games Workshop, and I looked at it and thought, what's the worst that can happen? They could say no.
Yeah.
But fortunately they didn't. And I did a bunch of pieces of work for them, came down, did a couple of very, very strange interviews that were great fun, but you probably wouldn't be allowed to do anymore. And they offered
this
the
job.
So,
yeah, beat me at Warhammer.
That's right.
Well, we did have
3,000
to play Warhammer.
points.
We had to do. It was a whole bunch of things.
Wow.
It was a fun couple of days, and yeah, they were good enough to give me the job, and I moved down to Nottingham a few months later and took the job, and fast forward, here we are today.
So you get the job in 2000. Your first book, Nightbringer, comes out 2002. Mm-hmm. And then what I consider one of the pivotal moments in Games Workshop writing, False Gods, which was your fifth novel?
No, yeah, maybe
okay.
the sixth or seventh, maybe.
So that doesn't come out.
I think it was my seventh one. Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't come out till 2006. Mm-hmm. And from the time of 2000 to 2006, what was your main role? Were you writing other novels for them? Were you focusing on different aspects?
The novels were all freelance things. There was no in-house novel writers. That was all done of evenings and the weekends and stuff. My day job, initially, as it was a staff writer, where it was intended more as a sort of journalistic thing, where you would come and do report from the Grand Tournament or interview, the heavy metal painters. How did you paint, the new Archaon model, or write up the battle reports that Andy and Jervis would play or something like that. And that it was all great fun. I really enjoyed that. But I think very quickly I realized, and I think the other guys realized, that my real interest was more in the background of the fiction side of things. So I wrote a couple of articles for White Dwarf. I think the first one that came out was famous regiments of the Imperial Guard, with Death Code of Krieg, Savlar Chemdogs and stuff like that. And that's kind of snowballed. I did a few more for various Astartes chapters. I wrote a lot of the color text that went alongside the battle reports to sort of, again, set the scene, why we're here, what happens at the aftermath of it.
Those White Dwarfs from like 2001 to 2010, they're so good. There's so much those like nice regimental articles or just battle. There's so much good stuff.
They were good fun to write because I think we had a nice balance that's, went away for a while and has now sort of come back of characters and personalities and rules and background and modeling. It's just a good balance, like I think we had then, and I'm glad to see it's very much in evidence again now. But yeah, from that, I mean, it was Gav Thorpe was doing Inquisitor at the time, and he'd already written the rules for it. But myself and Phil and Andy Hall and Matt Keefe, we helped out a lot with the play testing and the demoing of it, and we ended up writing a whole bunch of new rules for it for the Inquisitor magazine and supplements to go in White Dwarf and so on. And I think that was felt it was fairly safe ground because it wasn't like a core game. So if you messed up some rule mechanic and it was wildly overbalanced, it's like, it's Inquisitor. You can kind of get away with that because it's a very much more narrative GM driven game, and you were very much encouraged to play with the rules and use what you liked and discard what you didn't and bend them to make them fit the kind of games you like to play. So I wrote a lot of the stuff for that with Phil and Gav. And I think from that, I liked the rules writing stuff. So with, because you were, at the time, the design studio, the games dev team, we kind of were involved in all sort of aspects. We would all be pitching in on a codex or an army book, whether it be fiction or a rules entry or a unit entry or a rules summary or that sort of thing. So we were all involved with that. But the first time I got involved with that codex was writing a lot of stuff with Andy for the first Codex Tau. I wrote a lot of the background stuff for that.
That's what got me into the game, man. That was my first codex.
No, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. For real, man.
So, yeah,
I've made a living off of Warhammer as well because of you. So, yeah.
So, I'll expect a kickback on that.
That's right.
Soon.
A finder's fee, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. That seems only fair. But yeah, I mean, from there, I started getting more. I did almost none of the sort of journalistic stuff. It was all, rule codexes, army books, and then Phil Kelly, Andy Chambers, and I did the Demon Hunters Codex, the first of the sort of Inquisitor codexes, and that was a ton of fun because that was a chance for us to sort of really reclaim a lot of the Baroque Gothic weirdness of 40k, because I think we all felt that it had sort of unwittingly sort of drifted into more sort of, I don't want to say generic sci-fi, but it was very, obvious spaceship, space marine gun. There was none of the crazy weird shit, from John Blanche's original artwork and the original writings and Rogue Trader. We'd become a bit sort of sterile at that point. So, that was a chance for us to really inject some of the weirdness into the game. And we did that again. Andy Hoare and I did the Witch Hunters book, which again, ton of fun, introduced all the crazy weird judging trousers and all the living saints and stuff like this. And by that point we were just working on, you would take a book, whether it's like the City Fight or Black Templars or Empire or what have you, and so the day-to-day stuff was just writing stuff for codexes and army books, White Dwarf articles, designers' notes, battle reports, highlight a particular miniature, highlight a particular rule mechanic or that sort of thing. So that was kind of the day-to-day, and all the, I was kind of working sort of on the side with Black Library, helping sort of, read over some of the synopses that they were getting and offering some thoughts on it and so on. And that was really good training for me, because, that applying that rigor to somebody else's work meant that you necessarily had to apply it to your own work. So seeing what other people were doing was great training. Again, surround yourself by people who are doing great work.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I learned a ton of stuff from seeing, books, outlines for Gav, for Dan Abnett and so on, Gordon Rennie coming in and just looking at them thinking, right, I see. And Bill King, see how has Bill structured this? What has he done? I see what you did there. That's really clever. Take a note. But then by the time 2006 came along, which is when summer 2006, when I left, we were kind of in a place where the novels, by that point, I think I'd done 7, maybe coming up to 8. They were becoming the thing that was really exciting me the most. Long form fiction was, I realized, pretty much where my heart lay, rather than doing the Space Marine Codex for the 6th time. Which,
reinventing the Marine over again.
Every iteration of it adds something new, and every time you get to work on it, you find something new to love about that particular army. Because one of the mantras we had at the studio is, if you're working in a codex or an army book and you don't want to collect the army while you're doing it, then you're probably not doing it right.
Absolutely.
We had the armies we had going back then, from all the sort of test miniatures and first sprues. You're like, oh, that doesn't work, but okay, we can make something of this. So yeah, that's odd. But by that point, like I say, I had got to the stage where I really loved writing the novels and the short stories, and that was taking up the bulk of my time. So I figured, okay, if I wanted to make this a career, then if I don't do it now, I probably won't ever do it, because this is that sort of sweet spot of opportunity and time and desire. And I thought, if I don't, I'll get comfortable, and then it'll be too difficult to make the jump. So,
okay,
it became the thing that I wanted to do.
So 2006 hits, and Games Workshop approaches you and says, look, we have this massive idea. What were the initial planning stages of the Horus Heresy look like? Mm-hmm. Was it them approaching you? Was it putting a bunch of you guys in the same room together?
Yeah, it was. Wow. I mean, basically, even after I left Workshop, even and to this day, I maintain extremely close ties with them. I've worked with Games Workshop basically since the year 2000, and I've kept in. I have regular meetings with Nick Kime, and I speak to my friends at Workshop who are still there. We speak every week on Skypes and what have you, or that's it now that I'm in the US. But before that, we'd have gaming night every Wednesday for role playing or board games or war games or what have you. So, in many ways, I feel I've never left. Because I keep saying to them, I should get my 20-year award for Workshop. I've basically been, involved with that. With
some nice pin,
diamond watch, maybe
badge or something. Yeah, gold clock or something. Enameled bolter or something.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's the Heresy was one. Like I say, I was doing 3 novels a year. For Black Library, and so short stories, novels, and the occasional comic and stuff like that. So I was in contact with them. Like if a day went by I didn't talk to somebody at Workshop, it was a strange day. So it was. Nick and I had talked about it a couple of times, saying, "Oh, we're looking to maybe do this as a series," and we'd come to the conclusion that we felt that yes, we had a stable of writers who were reliable enough, or who had come up in the craft, who knew the IP and who knew each other, because a huge part of this endeavor would involve a lot of close collaboration and trust between them. So it was felt that that this is the moment we're ready to do this on all levels, on an editorial level, a story level, a writer, artist, production, distribution level. So yeah, we had a big meeting at Games Workshop in the boardroom with a whole bunch of authors and authors and editors and lore fiends from the company and so on, and we just kind of carved up the ideas of what it would be and how could we tell the story, because we can't just say, right, you over there do book 1 and off you go, and then we'll figure it out as we go along. We wanted to figure out what our strategy would be and how we would tell the story and what the feel and the themes we could explore would be, because we wanted it to be more than just bolter porn. We wanted to tell a big story that told the readers the story they didn't know. Because a lot of the times with the Heresy, it's like, well, I know how it ends. I know the big beats. I know where it gets to. So we always wanted to figure out a way to tell a story behind the story. The moments of the Heresy you thought you knew, but actually there were layers to it and facets that you hadn't seen before that would then hopefully radically alter the way you thought of things and bring new understandings to certain aspects of the story that you thought were, old and tired or you'd seen 100 times before. So,
yeah, it's interesting looking at Space Marines from 40K and 30K and comparing how the 40K ones are so religious and zealous. And I remember reading False Gods and like, oh, wow, this guy's a poet. Like, they have more things going on with them.
Oh, full credit for that has to go to Dan, because I remember reading the manuscript for Horus Rising, book 1 in the series, and being very confused at one point and going, who the hell are these guys? These aren't Space Marines. They don't talk like Space Marines. They're not all dogmatic and religious and these and those and brothers. This is all wrong.
But they don't have 10,000 years of context to them yet.
And that was the point. I reading halfway, very quickly into reading it, it's like, these aren't the 40K. These aren't Space Marines of 40K. What? Oh, wait a minute. Of course, they're not meant to be, because that's not who they are now. It's this conflict and the 10,000 years of grimness that fold out from this period is what makes the Space Marines of 40K. These guys are nothing like that. I mean, again, one of the things we wanted to explore was to make sure that you pick up a Horus Heresy novel, that within the first couple of pages, even if the cover was ripped off and you knew nothing of what you were reading, you would still know you were reading a 30K book, not a 40K book, because it had to feel like its own range, its own style, its own language. I mean, there's words and ways of telling stories that we employed in the Heresy that we would never really think to use in 40K, because they're such different timelines and the people involved in those stories are so very different.
Yeah, for sure. So that initial planning, did you guys have any idea that it was going to be like a 60 plus book long series, or did you guys have a goal? Yeah.
No, the original thinking, I mean, we never had a specific number in mind. It's going to be X books and that'll be that. We figured out we'll do an opening trilogy to really kick the ball going. We'll probably finish it with the trilogy and maybe, I don't know, 9 or 10 if we're lucky books in the middle. That was very quickly blown out of the water when we realized A, how popular it was, B, that there was so much story to tell, and there was so much that we wanted to tell that we were like, this is just never going to be whatever 8 to 10 books that we maybe envisaged. And the reader response to it, because there was a real leap of faith for everybody involved, the Black Library, the authors, the readers, everybody had to buy into this. And everybody did. The reader response to the Heresy series was just phenomenal. It was like nothing any of us had ever expected, to the point where, going into write False Gods, the pressure was enormous because, A, you're following Dan Abnett, which is never easy. And when he's written a book as just on fire as Horus Rising was, and you're telling the biggest story in 40K history. It's the pressure to do that story justice was enormous. But it was I always looked at it as okay, let's do it then. Let's you want that challenge? Okay, let's get this done and let's try and tell this as good as we can possibly tell it. Always bring something new to the table and just try and do something that builds on the lore, builds on what's gone before, gives the readers something new that they haven't seen before, and gets them hungry for another one. Fortunately, the gestalt mind power of the uni mind of authors and editors and what have you, it brought something special to the table. That number of minds working together really, really was greater than the sum of its parts.
It's manifested something truly that stretches between people and age groups and writing styles. It's quite a feat. It took a lot of effort on everybody's part to make sure that happened. We had to deliver the work on time. The editors had to wrangle many confusing timelines, because there's 30 years or so of backstory for the Heresy that is often contradictory, often wildly out of date given where the lore is now, and so on and so forth. Or there'd be a throwaway reference in an old white dwarf that is suddenly able to get, okay, well, that just
kills everything, or oh my god, I think the possibilities that opens. So it's, you know,
and never write a date down.
Easy...
Never write a date down, because if you write a date down, then it guarantees conflicts with another date, and then you're getting letters about why it's conflicting. So
yes, don't you know anything?
You got to be specific, but not too specific.
We were very lucky that we had a very dedicated team of editors who kept, you know, timelines, and, you know, was he left-handed or right-handed? Did she have green eyes or blue eyes? Lots of people keeping those things on track for us. So, you know, as we almost had the easier job of just writing the stuff down, not necessarily having to keep track of it all.
I'm assuming that there's just a massive lore Bible, holy grail of the correct thing. And I'm assuming that there's just a poor servitor in Games Workshop slowly pouring over line by line.
Of course, and it is so dense with lore, it has become its own singularity and nothing.
And once it's in there, nothing can escape it, right?
Oh, yeah.
It just sucks
it's a black
everything.
hole of lore. It's not called the Black Library for nothing. It sucks all the lore in and accretes around the edges.
Cool. So we're going to get into some experience writing for Games Workshop, and how writing for these group author councils is like planning sessions, favorite topics, books, least favorite books, topics. We got a couple more questions in that regard. So the first question, over the course of your career, you've written over 20 novels in Warhammer 40K, but you've also written in Warhammer Fantasy, Age of Sigmar, Blizzard's StarCraft, and Fantasy Flight Games Arkham Horror. Which one of these was the best experience working with the company, and which one was your favorite to write in?
All told, with all the various franchises I've worked in, that's like I've written like 30 novels, all told. But I mean, they're all very different. I mean, I've worked with the people at Games Workshop for like over 20 years now. There's a level of trust and love between the people that I work with there now that you only get after that level of time. And I'm very comfortable working with them. They're very comfortable working with me, and that level of trust and shorthand that you have about storytelling, what kinds of stories, allows for some really, really great and meaningful interactions that really help elevate the work. With StarCraft, I was working with Chris Metzen, who's the creative director over there. And the great thing about the StarCraft one was at that point, their universe was very, very loose in terms of the level of background that existed already. You know, like you go into Warhammer now, and there's 30 years of backstory at StarCraft 2, as it was that I was writing for at that point. It had almost nothing. Not almost nothing, but it was like a pamphlet that came in the original StarCraft book. Relatively. Yeah. So anything, Chris was very good. He's like, hey, if you ever run into, because I'd started by emailing him like, what does this thing mean? Who lives on this? What do these guys do? And so on. And he eventually was like, he's either getting tired of me saying asking so many questions, but he's just like, hey guy, if there's something that isn't there, if there's a gap in the lore, just fill it, just make it up, and we'll make it part of the canon. So it's like, wow, awesome. So that was fun, because you could literally do anything with it, and as long as it wasn't like stupidly breaking lore, which none of the tie-in writers would look to do deliberately. You could get away with it, and do it. I was never going to do something that's, I'm just going to fuck things up by doing this. I was always going to tell something that was fun and interesting. With the Arkham Horror ones, again, I had pretty much a free reign. You've got the characters from the game you want to use, and the first book was a bit more challenging, just simply because, the Lovecraftian lore, the mythos, and so on. My personal attachment to it is in that sort of cosmic, unknowable scale of, if you see the things, your head explodes as you go mad, and very much, it's like the writings of Lovecraft himself. Whereas Arkham Horror, the game, has a much more pulpy vibe to it, which is great, and I love it, because Arkham Horror is one of my favorite games. It's got that, if you stick a dynamite in a pistol, you can fight Cthulhu and so on. You can have that. You can drive a speedster around town, with the Meagle in pursuit, and you get the Tommy gun out the back of the car, and that sort of vibe to it. So the first book had to cleave a lot more closely to that vibe, which was fine. You know, again, it was a lot of fun to do that, but it wasn't the mythos that I was really drawn to. But then by the time book 2 and 3 came out, they were very much more like, okay, we'll just go nuts, you know, do what you want. So that was and I had a great editor in there, Evelyn Fredrickson. She was great on that, and let's say Patricia Meredith was my editor, and the other ones, she was great. So I've generally speaking had good editorial support, which really helps to, you know, to polish the words you give them, make good great, hopefully. So yeah, there's no IP I've worked in where I've come away gone, I'm not doing that again. That was
just soul draining.
No, I've been very fortunate over the course of my career to work with exceptional writers, great editors who have all helped elevate me along the way. As to a favorite, it's my favorite is, you know, and it's the same answer. You know, I've heard Dan give the same answer as well. My favorite is the one I'm working on right now, because when you're deep in the weeds of the book, you're if you're doing it right, hopefully, then you're loving it. You're loving these characters. They're speaking to you. The story's working. It's all coming together, and it's brilliant. And you know, and then you know that's the sometimes I hate it. I'm a terrible writer. I should never touch a pen and keyboard again. And then you come out the other side of that, and it's I love it again, and so on. But you need to. I always think, you know, in storytelling and IPs, variation and texture to the kinds of things you're working on is always really good to keep you fresh, because, you know, I don't want to do, you know, 5 Space Marine novels in a row, because that would get a bit samey. It would feel a bit like, how am I going to tell, you know, Tactical Squad Alpha going into battle interestingly than 5 times in a row over 6 books and so on.
Yeah, and it's hard to keep things shiny like that, you know?
Yeah, so going from, you know, like bolters and planetary bombardments to swords and dragons and wizards to Tommy guns and elder gods, just varying things up just keeps everything fresh and keeps everything exciting for when you go back to it. You think, oh man, I can't wait to get to, you know, the dreadnoughts and the drop pods and the Space Marine spear tip assault, you know, or, you know, the ranked up soldiers as the dragon comes sweeping in and the cannons booming over top and something. And so keeping things fresh and jumping from, you know, code switching from IP to IP is a great way to keep yourself fresh, to keep the writing fresh, the readers excited, because, you know, if you're not passionate about the thing you're telling, the reader will spot that a mile off, and the writing will be flat and it'll be boring, and they'll be like, not really going to bother finishing this book. So
that's some great advice, though. Just kind of follow your passions, whether it's in writing or whatever you're doing, though. Like, yeah, you can tell, you pick up on that passion. People pick up on it.
Very much so. We're very, you know, human beings are very instinctive creatures in that regard. You can tell when somebody's phoning it in. Mm-hmm. And I never, ever want anyone to read any of my stuff and think, yeah, you were half asleep and you were typing this.
I feel like I could just unpack 90% of what you're saying. Okay, so there's one part where you said, if you're writing the codex, and you got to love the army. You got to come out of it saying, I want this army. Now, Mark and I have covered many different topics in the Warhammer universe, and almost every single time we're like, all right, let's dive into Black Templar. And you build this entire 3-hour episode trying to impart what it is to feel like a Black Templar to people who maybe have no experience with it. And I don't know a single episode where, whether we're doing Tyranids or we're doing a Craft World or an Exodite, all of it is like, by the end, you're like, I have an idea for my own army and I want to get it right now.
Every time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And being able to write with that kind of intent, man, I think that's so awesome.
It's, you know, I haven't done it for a wee while. It's just time, and it's just, you know, time is the enemy now. But back, you know, when I was, you know, hip deep in the early years of writing for Black Library, and, you know, I was, you know, swinging bachelor sort of thing, I had all the time in the world. And every novel I did, I would do a conversion of a particular moment or a little diorama of something from the books. So
that's awesome.
Because it was always, you know, I've got my Uriel versus Nightbringer over there. I've got the Imperial Fist against the Demon Prince up there. So and I lost them in one of the house moves, but I did the wee guardsmen with the missile launcher taking on the Carnifex from Warriors of Ultramar.
Wow.
So yeah, I would always do a little model or even a figure or a diorama from each book I wrote, because there was moments that I felt that's because I always try and think in sort of cinematic terms of what the visual of this would be. A film and a novel, a short story, whatever, they all offer different opportunities for how you present a scene or a moment or an emotional arc and so on. So I always like to try and visualize what it would be if I was watching this book unspool as a film on the screen. What would that look like? What would be the most cinematic version of this moment? And building dioramas of particular moments often helped with that.
Yeah. Cool. Where did you get your main inspiration from writing 40K? Do you have any things that are kind of 40K equivalent that you really enjoy the universe of, take from, or?
The glib answer is usually always, I just reached out into my inspiration bag and pull something out. But that's always the one that is, it's dismissive, and I always would give that as a joke answer. But there's no one place is the answer to that. Yeah. I'm a big fan of history. I have
I was just about to say
that. I love ancient history, modern history, medieval history. I've got books on, any period you could name. I've got dozens of books on that. I'm an avid reader and consumer of history. And history is often wildly more crazy than fiction. Which I'm sure you're very much aware of. So history is a big part. I read a ton of things: fiction, non-fiction, biographies, short novels, big epic doorstep novels. I like I'm a big film fan, and I will watch any film at all. As if it's a good film, doesn't matter if it's a rom-com, if it's from a foreign language, if it's a thriller, an action movie, whatever. If it's a good film, I will watch it and learn from it, because you can see how they've structured it, what the characters were doing, what the want was that they then satisfied by the end, and so on. So there's always something to be learned, and everything is grist to the mill. The more inputs you put into the brain pan, the more chances there are of some random thing bumping into something else in your head, like, oh, that's weird, I would never have put those two together.
Yeah,
but that's interesting. How would that be a moment in the story? How would that be that kind of person be a character in a 40K story? That's really cool. I hadn't thought of that. So it's just filling my brain with input, whether it is from film, TV, music, poetry, painting, art, news, whatever.
Speaking of how you love films, and we're on the topic of sci-fi, Dune recently came out. Mm-hmm. Have you seen it?
I have, yes.
And I don't mean to turn this into a Dune conversation, but did you enjoy that movie?
I freaking loved it.
I have yet to hear one negative thing about that movie.
It's good. I mean, it's a piece of art. I mean, it really is.
I agree.
It's paced. I mean, I like slow burn stuff, so it's paced at a level that I felt I got enough. I mean, I've read the book several times, obviously, and even like I watched it with my wife, and she's never read Dune. She loves her science fiction stuff, but she'd never read it. And there's a very light touch on the world building, like who the Bene Gesserit are, what the Kwisatz Haderach is, and who the Harkonnens are, who the Sardaukar are, who the Atreides are, blah blah blah. But you get it. I mean, it's a lot of that information is conveyed with imagery and feeling and emotion as much as it is by, well, the Bene Gesserit are an all-female order of...
It didn't feel instructional. It felt more intuitive. You got a lot of information just out of the costumes and like the angle of shots and lighting used. Everything felt very specific in that movie.
Oh, it's very, very intentional. I mean, Denis Villeneuve came into Riot a few years back, just after the release of Arrival. He came in and gave a talk to us.
Great movie.
Yes, very clever movie. About his what he'd done, taken the original short story and how they developed it with Eric Heiserer and developed and expanded it, and how they used the visuals to convey a lot of the story. And Dune was very similar, because he was in the early stages of pre-production on Dune at that time. So, and he obviously he couldn't tell us anything about it, so we didn't get any spoilers or anything like that at the time. But I thought it was great. I think it did a great job of immersing you in a world that felt like Star Wars did, that felt real, that felt lived in, that felt dusty and battered by the thousands of years that had gone before this moment that you were seeing in the story.
Yeah, you can tell there's a weighty history behind it.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Dune is over. I'm done.
Tangent, tangent. That we love tangents.
So you were kind of saying, your favorite project is a project you're working on, but do you have one book that's just your all-time crowning achievement?
I mean, ultimately that's not for me to say. Ultimately that is for the readers to say, whether it's, like if my name comes up in a conversation about the books, what's the first book that most people would mention in the first breath? I think that's the answer to that question. I suspect it would probably be either Storm of Iron or Fulgrim would be the ones that would come up first.
Fulgrim is a pretty well talked about book.
Yeah, I think in terms of the one, because when you start a book, you've always got this beautiful idea of what it will be. This is the book I want to tell, that speaks to this theme, that explores these ideas and has these motifs and characters and these kind of emotions I want the reader to feel by the end of it. And some books are more successful than others, and I personally, when you finish it, you can look at them and go, yeah, that was good, I enjoyed that, and I think it did all this and this, but I didn't quite get to explore that, or I didn't feel I really conveyed that. And of all the books that I've written, I think I achieved the majority of what I wanted what I set out to do at the beginning, is probably 1,000 Suns, because that I had some real, in my head, lofty ambitions for what that book would be. And again, working with Dan while he was working in Prospero Burns at the time, we were in contact every day, either on the phone or via email for that, bouncing ideas back and forth, and can you see this thing in your book and I'll pay it off in mine, and vice versa, and so on. So I think in terms of achieving that beautiful dream you have at the beginning of the book, by the end of it, I think that one is the one I think I felt most successful in terms of ticking off all the things I wanted to do. I think that was the most successful. I think as far as, Heldenhammer, the first book in the Sigmar trilogy, is the one that I felt the most connection to. I felt, because that book just poured out of me. I mean, that was one of the quickest that I've ever written a novel, and for me, that's always a sign that you've got that deep connection to the material, to the characters, the story. You just know it, and you just know how all of these characters are going to behave, what move they're going to make. They tell you before you even know what it is. So on an emotional level, I think this first Sigmar book was the one I liked. I came out with the most visceral reaction to going, that's good. This is good, because you never know. You write a book and you think it's good, you hope it's good, but you never know. Yeah. Sigmar, or Heldenhammer, the first book, was one of the few books where I've come out going, you know what, this is a good book. I think people are going to like this one, because that almost never happens. You hope it's good, but you never know. Or a lot of times you'll get them think, yeah, it's okay. I think it's good.
I think with almost all creative projects, it's very different examining it in your bubble of creator versus handing it out to other people to criticize and critique and look at it. So it's cool to think that you even had a project where you were happy with it. And then I never read it, but it was well received.
It was, yes.
Yeah.
It was.
Well, I think that's a cool place to be in. I'm happy with it, and then people are happy with it.
Yeah, and I would never submit a book to the editors if I wasn't happy with it. If I felt that it wasn't right, I would have a conversation with the editor and say, like, it's not working, something's not right, I need more time on it. And that was always the key. Because again, I have built up a level of trust and mutual respect and trust between myself and the editors I worked with at GW, so that I would always tell them, look, if I'm going to be late on this because I need to work on this, this, and this, it's cool. Yeah, we know, that's great. We trust you that you're not just going to string us along. You'll bring this in at some point soon, and it will be good, and it will be worth the extra time you've spent on it. Because that communication is key to a good working relationship with your editors, with your publishers.
Yeah.
Speaking of working relationships, you have recently moved to a new working relationship with Riot.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if how much of this you actually want to get into, but are you working on Arcane at all? Were you participating in the story writing for that one?
Not in season 1. No, I didn't write any of the scripts for season 1. I certainly read them and offered thoughts back to the writers and the creators of it. But no, I wasn't involved in the writing of season 1. At the time, it was like 6 years ago. I joined Riot, or just over 6 years actually. It was 2015. I moved over to the US. Our involvement was very much on the sort of the periphery for season 1, because I was working the world building team at the time with other writers and editors and art, and predominantly artists. And we worked. We would go down and speak to the Arcane team and talk to them about Piltover and Zaun and what the themes of those locations were, and the kind of tech level or ideas for what you could see in the street in that shot or this shot and so on. So we were, we were involved, but not, I would never claim, oh yes, I was involved in season 1 at all. No, we worked. I know Christian and Alex, I've known them for years, and we'd chat to them about the story, the place and so on, but no, I had no direct involvement per se with season 1, no.
But it sounds you're making a distinction on season 1. Does that mean we can expect some Demacian story coming out in season 2?
Well, have you seen Arcane?
I haven't finished it yet. I'm like 3/4 through.
Oh, okay. Well, I will not spoil. We'll come back to that question once you've seen the episode 9.
I'll show you a text, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I can say no more.
Very cool. Can you tell us anything else about what you're doing with Riot? Anything
like I say, it was summer 2015. I came over to the US to work for Riot, and I initially joined their world building team. So at the time, Runeterra as a setting for the League of Legends game was it wasn't as developed as we would have liked, and you had some of the regions of the world were very kind of archetypical of, this is high fantasy land, this is northern Viking land, this is ancient Egypt, and they were all kind of like just kind of stuck next to each other. There hadn't been a lot of deep work gone into, well, how do these societies and cultures coexist next to each other? How do they, what's the movement between them? How do they exist and not immediately become homogenous or become, one doesn't immediately dominate the other and so on. So
they felt very fragmented, kind of like you had very specific ideas of how one would act, but it didn't really feel natural with what its neighbors would be.
Exactly. That was like, how does like a sort of steampunk Victoriana exist next to, a sort of an empire like the Romans and Persians combined? How do they exist with the border like that, and one not becoming like the other one? Yeah,
exactly. As soon as you cross the border, you lose all knowledge of what was on the other side
so
of it.
There was a hugely talented team of artists and other writers and editors, and we spent several years building out what these cultures would be. We did what we called one sheets, were like guides for each faction, and they were designed to be specific enough that you could understand that culture and get who they were, and what they dressed like, what their weapons were like, what language they spoke, and so on, what the shape language and the color palette would likely be. But it was more about building out the DNA of a culture so that teams could then take this and run with it and still use it to create and invent stuff. But because they had the building blocks that world building created, they would all, they would still be, if Team A was doing something in Demacia and Team Z was doing it, because they were all building off the same one sheet, whatever they made would still be coherent and still feel Demacian no matter which team made it and so on. So we spent a lot of time building out the different factions and either through the one sheets or by storytelling. And we worked very closely with the champ team to, they would be creating stories and we'd offer thoughts on that, and the things we did in the world team, they would give us their thoughts. And it was very, in a video game company of that scale, you have to be very collaborative. Every team works with the others to try and build out that world that feels real. It feels good, like it's got a depth to it that is broad enough to tell stories within that matter, that they're not all spinning in their own little, agnostic bubble, that they have consequences and connections. And that, to a degree, that's the training we had doing the Horus heresy was really useful for that, because that was all about a shared universe where characters could move from story to story to book, being told by a different author, but they had to feel coherent between them, and same in the world. So that was the bulk of my time at Riot, working there and writing short stories to further build the world out. And because you can do a one sheet's quite a technical document in some ways, whereas when telling the stories within those worlds would really add flesh to the bones, and seeing something in action in a story would really cement it, usually a lot better than a dry design document ever could. So that's the bulk generally of what I do. We're kind of we're in a space now where we're matrixed onto whole different teams, various people within the narrative department, so we can be working on lots of different things. So I did some work on the new Pentakill stuff recently, building out what the mythology of this Pentakill universe was with some other writers in the music team. We did some stuff for the Wild Rift mobile game. We, like I say, for a while back, a couple of years ago, I was working some stuff for Arcane. So it's all over the place. You again, it's that texture. You do different things. You're doing a short story here. You're doing an epic poem for this champion's backstory and what have you. So it's always a varied diet of things, whether it's voiceover lines, barks, or any number of other things. Card text for a Legends of Runeterra card or something.
Very cool.
Yeah. So are you pretty invested still in 40K? Like, I know I see all your miniatures behind. Do you still play games, paint miniatures? I'm going to assume daily, hour minimum.
Yeah. I've got my Necrons here.
Ooh, Necron!
Domitus box. I've finished painting up all the miniatures. Well, I've painted up all the miniatures and terrain for the Octarius box for Kill Team. Evan and I, my son, he and I play quite a bit of Kill Team, on the weekends. I'm building out several armies to the point where they're table ready. I mean, I've got my Nids, my Death Guard, Necrons, and of course Ultramarines.
Yeah.
I'm still. I mean, I came in. My route into the hobby was gaming, and that has been a constant over the last. Well, certainly from my time at Workshop, the last 22 years, it's been an absolute constant, painting and gaming and modeling and building terrain. Yeah, absolutely.
Has 40K been your main hobby, or do you paint any other things like bolt action miniatures or any other games?
Yeah, I'm a monogamous in terms of my gaming. Yeah. It's all work.
One love.
In terms of miniature wargaming, it's all Workshop stuff. I mean, I've plenty of the board games I have are hugely miniature based, but things like Death May Die or Hate, Scythe, Seven Sins, the others. I've got a lot of Simon games because I have a terrible Kickstarter habit, Whenever a new game is up, and it's like, you can go all in at $250 or $300 to get all the extra miniatures.
Get the platinum level.
Exactly, diamond tier.
That's right.
I'm losing money not buying that. Really. So I have more miniatures for other games than I could ever hope to paint, but they're board game miniatures. So but as far as tabletop wargaming goes, I'm a GW boy, always have been.
Okay, so you're working on Necron. I can only imagine that you have built an entire dynasty on its own. I have my own dynasty. Mark, we all write extensive backstory for our armies. Have you done that for your Necron?
Well, I've got my Necron army here was the third ed one I did with Andy Chambers and Phil Kelly, and that was before we had the dynasties. They were the serried, faceless ranks rising from the sands and so on, the unknowable horror type thing. Because again, that was Phil and I are massive, mythos fans, so there's a lot of this sort of Lovecraftian element we baked into that codex. And honestly, I have not done any dynastic stuff because that's not my flavor of Necron. I'm much more the
It was a big change.
Horde. It was.
Yeah.
The 4th edition codex went hard on all the different dynasties.
It probably took me like 7 solid years to fully go through my stages of grief from this from this like immovable, implacable, just slow moving army that's moving.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I was the same. I get why it was done, and it was for the hobby and for the army. It was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But they're not. That's not my Necrons. Yeah. My Necrons are the nameless, shambling hordes rising from the sands,
slaves to their god star masters.
And there's been a lot of great work done in the fiction side of things and the gaming side for the Necrons, giving them character and characters. Like Nate Crowley's done some great work with them, and I've really enjoyed his books on them. But my Necrons, mine don't speak. Mine just come at you in horrible silence and then tear you apart.
I love it.
And then their masters feed, so it's great.
Yeah, exactly.
To expand on that, so do you ever write lore for your personal army where you're like, I'm not submitting this to GW, this is like my thing?
Oh, no, absolutely. Every one of my armies has that, but not my Necrons.
I picked the one wrong guy.
My Necrons are the shambling, ancient horde of space undead. But all my armies, the Nids, they have their own backstory. My Ultramarines have got the victories.
Can you just make that canon? Like if you text a GW and hey, here's my Hive Fleet. Can you make this canon?
Just put a 2-sentence thing in a new codex. No problem.
Yeah. If I put it in a novel, possibly.
That's so cool.
I would certainly want to talk with my editor about that before doing it, because that would feel a bit indulgent to do that just off the
I'm imagining you with the Bilbo scene. After all, why shouldn't
I? There's an element to that. There's an element of it, no matter how detailed a codex is or a background is, there's always room in the telling of a story to add an extra level of detail into the warp and weft of the story and the characters. So it's kind of a weird sort of Ouroboros-like thing where, as stuff comes out in the codex, I think, that's cool, and then I invent stuff for the miniatures or the army or in the story, and then I put that into my army again, and it just it's a nicely
weird
cyclical thing.
Loop.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
I wrote, Uriel Ventures as a character, and now we have a miniature for him.
Yeah, that's wild.
Which is just an amazing. It's like
yeah, something that you conceptualized.
Yeah, exactly. I remember the first time when they did the Tau Codex, and I wrote the ethereal character Alan Shee, and a model got made of him, and it was like, that's so cool. This guy, I made
that's awesome.
I can't imagine how many times I read that battle in the Fourth Codex of Unshi versus the Greenskins on the walls. I must have read that 100 times as like a little kid, you know? It's just...
Excellent.
Fucking crazy.
Well, that's what, I mean, that was one of the things we always strive for, that there's a rereadability. Because I remember, you know, when I was, you know, 16, 17, whatever, and I was playing 40k with the old second edition codexes, I would read them over and over again.
Before bed every night.
Yeah, the stories, you know, a lot of them are like, you know, Bill King and Andy and Gav wrote a lot of them, and they're great.
Yeah, very cool. All right. Well, I think we're going to dive into some listener questions. We have a Discord server where people are asking us just about stuff.
Try and keep these brief.
Yeah, we'll do kind of rapid fire. Yeah.
So, okay. I'll go for the first one, if that's okay. So this is from Death's Angel, and they say, if he, Graham, had a choice to make a new race or faction of an existing one, what would it be? Why? Also, what's the most difficult part of writing about any of the non-human races?
I mean, of a new faction, I mean, that could be anything, I suppose. I don't know, some of the I mean, I'd always quite fancy doing something with the Harad and figuring out what they would be as an army.
Absolutely, the Bendies.
Because I think they offer, you know, a lot of interesting possibilities for their lore and storytelling, but also real interesting game mechanic stuff. Because
the time flows, the time skips.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like working in ways you could, you know, because I think a good mechanic isn't just one that nerfs thing your opponents do, because that's not fun for them. So figuring out ways to bend time, you know, rot their equipment with enhanced aging and stuff like that.
Cool.
That would be kind of fun. And their lore would be kind of fun. It would be a lot of, you know, a lot of interesting potential there. And one of the ones that I always wanted to do one was the Mortifactors chapter that I introduced in Warriors of Ultramar, and just detailing the moment where Uriel goes to petition them for aid against the Tyranids and exploring their chapter monastery, and I was kind of riffing on that because I'd not long come back from the ossuary at Sedlec in Prague, and you know there was all the cathedrals and all made out of bone with the bone chandeliers and the bone doorways and stuff like that. And it's like, this is the coolest thing ever. And so I'm putting this
That's
thing
so 40K.
Exactly, you know, and I was like, I always wanted to go back and like do chapter specific rules for them.
Very cool.
And as for, I think the hardest part of doing Xenos writing is detailing like thought processes and wants and desires that are not just human with a pointy ear or human with a green skin.
Yeah.
And let's say like Mike Brooks and Guy Haley have done great jobs with the orcs on that. And like I said, Nate Crowley's done some great work on the Necrons. Gav did some great work on the Eldar for that, and making them, you know, sort of monstrously alien with that sense of time that is so different from the human span of thinking, you know, because we think our thought processes are driven by how short relative to them our life expectancy is, whereas when you live for hundreds of years, your process of thinking and your methods of thinking are going to be wildly different. And you know, and Gav did an awesome job in the Path of the Eldar books on that one. So I think
those were great books.
Part. Yeah, they were tremendous. Is just making it so that the aliens feel alien.
Yeah,
they don't feel like humans with a slightly different body part.
If there could be one character to have a real conversation with in 40K, who would it be?
And apparently, Bixa said you can't pick the Emperor.
God, probably one of the Eldrad Ulthran would be interesting, you know, or any of the, you know, if you could keep them at a safe distance, any one of the traitor Marines, you know, the
what's
guys
a safe distance?
You know, like in the next galaxy over.
Yeah.
Just so you could, you know, to hear the stories of the old days. You know, what was it like when the Emperor was on the battlefield? What was it like to see Guilliman in his prime,
Wow.
that sort of thing.
Yeah. Fandex guy asks, what's a 40K misconception that you'd like to clear up?
Certainly the one I tried to get across over in Fulgrim was that, that Slanesh isn't all tits and bums.
Absolutely.
Slanesh is a god of excess. It's excess in all things, whether that is, sex, art, music, violence, martial skill, beauty, volume, whatever it is, it's turned up to 11 and then some, and that's an aspect that is too easily, and not without, reason, too easily fallen into that trap that it's the sex god. And it's like, well, no, that's just one facet of it. It's everything dialed up to the max. And then chasing, I always look at Slanesh as something of an addict. It's like an addict's
Absolutely.
mindset.
Yeah.
That you chase the high, and when you get it, you need it again and again. And what satisfied you before won't satisfy you. This time it needs to be higher, bigger, faster.
It feels like everyone who's involved in chaos somehow is chasing that dependency upon like the god's favor. But Slaneshi is just even amped up even more. Yeah. Not only are they chasing the favor, but they're also chasing the experience of how they're worshiping their god.
They're all, they're all addicts to some degree, whether they're for blood and slaughter, whether it's for the most Machiavellian of plans. I think Slanesh is the one that certainly most easily exemplifies that. Well, not easily, but is the one that most exemplifies that and offers you, I think, the widest smorgasbord of ways to express that, which is something that I had a tremendous amount of fun with in Fulgrim.
Very cool.
Next question. I don't know how you're doing for time here.
Sorry.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
I got a couple more that I personally really want to hear the answers for. So this is the next one. Then. This one is from LeChuck. I've read 20 plus books of 40K from different authors. There seems to be a lot of variance of the conception of the machine spirit from author to author. Could you kind of clarify what you like to imagine the machine spirit kind of is?
I think that's one of the things that I love about 40K is that there are so many interpretations of it, and I don't mean to cop out on that. And that all of these expressions are canon, and all are not, and all is valid. And it's like, I think the machine spirit to me is it's the electromotive force given animus, it's given personality. And I whenever I'm writing Mechanicus led stories, I always like to look at it as like as if it's like, as was exemplified in Mechanicum. It's like the Akashic record. It's this, this gestalt galaxy, universe-wide consciousness of all energy, of all matter and motion and force, and that manifests through the machines, and how that expresses itself is based upon what kind of machine it is. By because the mechanics are almost like, they're like sorcerers, they're wizards. They conjure up an aspect of that universal force through the machine, and shaped by the rituals they've imposed upon it, by the runes they've hammered into the chassis of this machine.
The oils they've sanctified.
Yeah, exactly. The different unguents, the flavors, each Mechanicum priest has their own way of blending the oils, their own way of shaping the runes, and to a degree, that forms the shape and the essence of that, universal power as it is filtered through this machine and shaped by the purpose that it's supposed to do, whether it's an engine, a laser, or a reactor or whatever.
Wow. That's a pretty cool explanation, I'm not going to lie. I love the idea of this kind of just gathering energy from the universe. I don't know if I've ever quite considered it to be like that. So
that's cool. How I've always thought of it. Again, whether that's the truth or not.
Even Mark and I, we cannot agree on what the machine spirit is. Neither can Christian, another guy we have on pretty frequently. But it seems everyone has their own. couple bloody noses,
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
That's healthy debate.
All right, we're going to ask 2 more questions. Eric, do you got yours queued up?
Yes. Okay. So this is a question from Matt, one of our members. He says, are there any writers that have inspired or influenced your writing style throughout your career? And what one book would you recommend as a close to ideal piece of Warhammer fiction? Also, please thank him for being an inspiration to me. Ultramarines Omnibus was my first bought 40K book and is still one of my favorite series.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. That's a great question. I've been influenced by every book I've ever read has influenced me for good or ill. But that's not really the question. I mean, in terms of what has influenced me in terms of how my writing has developed as a writer, I first and foremost, I would have to say David Gemmell has been the ultimate shaper of my style of writing, the kind of things I like to write about. I mean, I've been reading his books since I was like 13 or so. I mean, the axe there behind me is Snaga. My second Sigmar book won that award, the David Gemmell Legend Awards, back in 2010. Wow. So David Gemmell is probably the writer who shaped me the most. Also Clive Barker and Stephen King, because their books are. I mean, Clive Barker, just the sheer breadth and depth of his imagination is just staggering. And Weave World and Imagica are some of the 2 books that I probably go back to the most, and every time I discover something new in them, and just the how he's able to write about the most grotesque things imaginable, but describe them with such beauty and love is something that's just astounded me since I first read The Hellbound Heart many, many years ago. In terms of 40K and Warhammer, I mean, the obvious answer is Dan, because Dan has done so much to shape the 40K and the heresy universes, and he's a singular talent amongst the Black Library writers, and a tremendously nice guy to boot as well. Gav and Andy Chambers have both been huge influences on my writing, just because they're good writers who tell a story well, and that's what you want. I mean, you can dress a story up in all kinds of complexities, but you just can't beat a good story, a good simple story well told. And Gav's and Bill King's writings of the fiction of Warhammer inspired me from the earliest days, and still do.
Wow.
I've heard you throw out a bunch of names throughout the course of this. Have you done much work with Aaron Dempsey Bowden?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
This was one of those names I hadn't heard yet, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Aaron's style of writing is very different from mine. And not to say better or worse, it's just very different. And his method of writing, because he takes a long time to do his books, and he agonizes on every line and every word down the course of his books. And yeah, I mean, he inspires me with the level of world building and depth he will put into every chapter, every character, every weapon, every planet, every place that these characters go to. And he builds all that out, which is, way more than I do. So from a world building point of view, and from a context of adding real depth to the flavor of what he writes, yeah, for sure.
Very cool. Okay, so have you heard about the greater good warp entity that happened in the fourth sphere of expansion? And what are your thoughts on that? A Tau warp entity.
I have to confess, I don't know a lot about that one. Yeah. I have a Tau army down there, but I haven't really kept up with a lot of the Tau codexes and the lore and behind them. So I don't really know a lot about that, because it's not a... I know, like Phil Kelly's he's done a whole bunch of novellas and so on, and novels set with the Tau. So it's not an arena that I'm particularly in any hurry to, venture into. So I haven't really looked. I'm
going to say you're not interested in a greater good Tau warp entity then. That would be my guess. Yeah.
It feels...
He's going to lose his job now. We need definitive answers.
I don't know enough about it to give you a proper answer, unfortunately, to that one.
It's all good.
Given... I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to explore, certainly, but it's the new kid on the block, and he'd probably get his ass kicked.
Absolutely,
by every other Chaos God.
We just recently did our own episode on the Tau third and fourth sphere of expand, or was it fourth and fifth? Yeah, on the Tau fourth and fifth. So we kind of explored it. So it's pretty fresh on our minds as to its existence.
Sorry, I can't give you a better answer than that. I don't know enough about it.
And the final question from Commander Dante 1000. I've read Fulgrim. Are you okay?
I am, because of Fulgrim.
It's cathartic.
It was cathartic. Yes. It was, it's a way of exercising the demons and the voices inside me. And, putting them in the page confines them to the book and gets them out of my head and into everybody else's head. And, a horror shared is a horror lesson.
I love that. Writing is a form of magic. I mean, I've heard it many times. So.
It's it. You cut a vein and you bleed onto the page.
Wow. Well, you know what? I can think of no better way to celebrate our 100th episode than to share this interview with you, Graham. This has been absolutely amazing to just hang out and chat with you.
It's been fun. I've really enjoyed this. We've got some good conversations going, which is exactly what you want.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You truly are like an inspiration to me. Like, the Tau 4th Edition Codex, that changed the whole trajectory of my life. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Take that as you will.
I will. I'm just going to bask in that for a little while. Yeah. Thank you, guys. That means a lot. It really does.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Graham. And I guess we'll see you on the next time we invite you on the show.
That sounds like a plan. I like it.
Cool.
All right. Welcome back. I don't know. I had a great time interviewing Graham. He was a great guest.
Yeah, it was fantastic. He's not returning my phone calls. I'd call him every hour on the hour, but he's a busy guy, and I'm happy he made an hour and a half for us, because holy fuck, he said some super sweet stuff. It was incredible. Well,
he definitely blocked your number after the first phone call at 3 a.m. Mark.
Yeah. No, I'm used to that. It's fine. Yeah. Let's add that to our Lorehammer bucket list of things that we thought would never happen, or just like 100 episodes ago were like a pipe dream.
Sure, yeah. Things that seemed so impossible for a couple people, just making a podcast in a room with a Batman blanket on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Man, so we have some more news to share with everybody. Eric, do you want to? I don't know how to share it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess this is actually going to be our final episode that we are recording, and that comes after over 4 years of episodes, over 150 recorded episodes, over
hundreds of hours,
over 300 recorded hours and released. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Like. Give people a second to hear what they just heard. Their favorite 40K podcast is no more. It's been crazy. Like we're going to kind of unpack this. Like me and you, Eric, haven't even really talked a whole lot about this. Like we have, and we got plans, but like I haven't got sentimental and emotional with you yet, man. I'm still dealing with this loss too. But
it's kind of. It feels like the end of an era, almost. Just like a portion of life can be dominated by our Lorehammer podcast. I can break my life into that section. This is my Lorehammer time, and so kind of
chapter Lorehammer for sure.
Yeah, it feels odd to know that it had the beginning, and now we have the end of it. Really.
Yeah. But we're on to other things, me and Eric. I'll share a little bit of what I'm doing, Eric. I don't know how much you want to share about your life too, but just with chapters, we're both ready to flip to the next chapter and discover new things. And unfortunately, we are not able to do that and still continue on with Lorehammer.
Well, I mean, one of the things that we we sat down a long time ago when we first started Lorehammer, and we talked about what we thought made it good, what we thought was like a portion of our success. And a lot of that was the ability to record in person with our friends.
Yeah, when you get 4 people who are genuinely friends hanging out and just shooting the shit, there's just something magical about it.
Yeah, and I think that we've heard time and time again how people really appreciated the fact that it felt like they were in the garage with us.
Yeah.
You know, like I listened to the show and it felt like I was with my friends, or it felt like I was with the guys hanging out. And I think that was like one of the huge draws of what we had.
Yeah. And then it was interesting over the years as we got more and more popular, seeing like some of these memes we've say in episodes make it into back to us or whatever. Like, you know what? When we said the last episode for Christian was the Emperor episode, we meant it that time. You know?
That was really funny recording, actually. 'Cause I feel like we hammered it so hard in that episode too. Even Christian was like, I guess this is my last one, you know, I'll never be back.
Yeah, and it's funny, like we got so many messages where it's just like, fuck Christian, like, but we know it's just like, it's out of like this like meme love, like where they're playing along, because you felt we're all homies now. So I'm gonna say why we're ending Lorehammer. I'm actually moving out of Canada. So
going someplace much warmer, hey?
Yeah, I'm moving down to Panama, and I'm ready for the next chapter of my life in that regard. But we talked about it for a long time, like me and Eric, like, do we want to do Zoom calls like what we're doing right now and try to phone them in? And ultimately, we just kind of felt like we didn't want to degrade it like that. You know, you see that season of a TV show where they're on season 8 and you're like, where the fuck are all the main characters? This isn't what I signed up for. And we didn't want that to happen to Lorehammer, because we also talked about maybe Christian would take it, and we both instantly stomped that into oblivion. But, you know.
Well, then we wouldn't even be allowed to make that joke anymore at that point.
Exactly.
And that's half of the whole reason you want him on the show. It's just so you can tell him this is your last time.
Just break him a little more as a person. But yeah, like it's time. We've done it for a long time. Both me and you, we've been doing Warhammer for like 20 plus years even. And while 40K is always going to be my hobby, like I've already packed up all my Warhammer and getting it ready to ship to Panama, like I'm always going to be around doing 40K, but you know, the special time of Warhammer unfortunately is at an end.
Yeah, I'm definitely happy to try other things, and you know, obviously I plan on staying connected with the Lorehammer Discord and the people that the people we've built relationships with and stuff. And I'm excited to now transition kind of just to like a member of that community myself, instead of someone who's like an overseer kind of.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, yeah, it's crazy. We set out and we're like, what, at the end of 1 year, what would be worth it? What would be worth it for listeners? And we're like 100 people. And now we got thousands on our Discord. It's like, okay, dude, I got recognized down in Florida one time at a mall. Like,
that's a little odd.
It was the craziest fucking thing.
But, I remember seeing like, oh man, our first 1,000 downloads. I thought that was wild. You see your first 100,000. You see your first 1,000,000 downloads.
Yeah, after I seen the 1,000,000, then I stopped kind of looking at numbers, and then I'm like, oh my God, I've said a lot of outlandish things.
that probably 1,000,000 people have heard.
Yeah, so it's been crazy, man. Like, one thing I want to talk about too is how just Lorehammer has really just like affected and developed our friendship. Like, over the last 5 years, we've become such homies just due to Lorehammer. And just when you're forced to hang out and do something with somebody, you
forced to. Yeah,
that's the word I'm going with. I was forcing you. Let's make that clear. I was forcing you. I was forcing Christian. I was forcing Jordan. I was forcing all 40 of the different people we've had on Lorehammer.
We twist each other's arm for sure sometimes. Yeah, it has been it's like you get an exhaustive peek into what someone else's life is like, you know, like, we're friends, and then you turn into coworkers, and then you kind of turn into business partners, but you still are coworkers and you still are friends.
And we're even family too. Like my brother is married to your sister. So like there's ties there, and it's like, this is just another piece of our friendship.
We're also lovers,
puzzle.
You know? Like,
yeah.
Is there any way we're not connected, you know?
Whose pee-pee
opens
up
to accept the other ones? Hard to say, really.
Hard to say.
When the lights are off. Anyways.
But yeah, like, it's been so fun. Like, we really got like this nice flow where it's like we know how to rile each other up. And like, one thing I've always liked about our friendship, and we'll rile each other up where we're literally yelling at each other at some episodes, but then at the end of it, we're just like, yo, you want to go get some food? Like, nothing happened, because it's just we're fucking homies, you know?
Yeah, I think something that, like, okay, one of the craziest things about Lorehammer is people see the energy that we have between each other. Yeah. And they're like, man, you know, they're good friends. They have no problem yelling and screaming at each other, but they're still friends with it. And we've had people message us with that energy and like bringing it to me. And part of me is like, no, like, I don't know you.
Yeah. This is years of friendship that we can yell at each other.
We've spent decades like finding out about each other. And I think that's something.
I'm not allowed to make fun of Mark's tiny penis, so take that off the list. He really doesn't like that one.
Well, not to your face, at least.
So. No, of course not. But yeah, man, it's just been crazy. Like, just watching our friendship develop, and going into all those different areas of life together. It's been so cool. There are a few people that I would have done it with, you know?
Oh, it's very true. I think that we worked well together for a lot. I think both of us were pretty gracious to the other person.
Yeah, I would get all riled up with some crazy idea, and then you would talk me down, and then would meet somewhere in the middle of like this perfect, like, okay, that's reasonable. It makes sense.
I think we were good at finding compromises for sure.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I think it really contributed to the longevity, really, of what we were doing, is the fact that, you know, both of us were willing to, you know, give up something to find common ground. And I think that's important in any kind of relationship or partnership, is that, you know, even if I want something really badly, I have to be willing to see that you also want something really badly and try and find something where we're both happy. Or at least neither of us are both upset. You know?
yeah, exactly. It was interesting because, we've dealt with probably hundreds of thousands of dollars almost through Lorehammer, and like, maybe not quite that much, but give it another year and it might get close, you know? But like, it didn't affect our friendship, and it was just like navigating thousands of dollars of revenue and just, you know, what do you want to do with this money, Eric? Oh, a different view than me? Well, yeah, cool. Let's build a fucking studio.
Yeah, I think another thing that really contributed to the fact that we didn't seem to have as many problems is I think we were really clear when we first started what our expectations were. And I think we've gone through a couple periods where we've like reevaluated and had to come back to like, hey, what do we want like our mission to be, and how do we want to frame like the podcast? And
like when you listen to episodes 1 through 20, there's a fucking vibe there. There's just 4 yahoos yelling at each other, not actually knowing thousands of people are going to listen to it, you know? And then we get good at taking notes, and it's kind of interesting, man. Like, I have developed a lot of skills through Lorehammer. Like, I legitimately could not read out loud before, like when we started this. And it's not that I can't read. It's just in school, I never had to read out loud. I learned at my own pace. So I never did it. I never developed that skill. And through Lorehammer, like, I'm able to read, and I'm even starting to get to the point where I can like add voices and different kind of inflections, and like, it's a skill that I have now.
Yeah, I mean, like, we've been doing it for years, and hopefully people have noticed that our, like the quality of our episodes has only increased in time. But most of those come through the fact that we are intentional about, okay, this is what we want to improve upon, or this is what we want to kind of tweak or fix in our episodes. I think that the success that we have, I don't think it like happened by accident. I think, well, maybe the initial, maybe the like initial people finding us was accidental, but I think that our like tenacity on just continuing to push out episodes and like the friendship we do have and the friendship that we have with so many other people that were willing to come on our show, that contributed so much to our success.
Yeah. And like, we responded to almost every fucking message that was sent to us. Like, let's just say 95% and callers safe. I won't lie. It has dropped off drastically for me in probably the last year. But I do remember in the first 2 years, probably even 3 years of the show, it was like a point of pride to know that we had messaged back every single person or responded to every single comment, replied to every email that we got. And then at some point it just got overwhelming. Yeah. And I'm still on there and I'm still hustling, but yeah, there's still a lot. But yeah, man, it's been so fun just getting to learn all these new people. And even that's been a skill that I've developed now, is just like being more open to be myself and like interact with people. Like that was one of my goals with with Lorehammer, was to get like a community of friends and to like open up myself and my friendship circle and just, meet new people.
Well, it definitely succeeded. I mean, never mind the fact that we have our Discord community, or our Facebook group or our Instagram where we chat and hang out with people, but we even met people in real life that were more than willing to come and hang out, and they just want to come see Mark and play some Warhammer with him.
They want to play that Mark rules.
I was a little less likely to invite people into my house. But.
Yeah. It was funny. There was a couple people I would invite over, and then they'd be like, "Oh, is Eric coming?" And I'd be like, "No." And then they'd be like, "Aw." And then I'd be like, "Yo, Eric, this guy really wants to see you." And then you'd show up and blow their freaking mind. It's so funny. Yeah, man. Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, we've had so many memories.
Okay, I was thinking about this. One of probably my favorite memories is from our Black Templar episode and Terry the Templar.
Terry the Templar. Yeah, man.
That will probably sit with me for a while. Another great one that I had was Peter and his desire to make the Eldar great again. I do think about that every once in a while.
Yeah. One of my favorite episodes we did was Grots, Snots, and Squigs.
Okay.
And it was just so comical and so wacky. And then at the end, we all came up with our own Squigs. And like somebody had like a Zeppo Squig, and like just being creative and just quirky and 40K fun.
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's a great thing about 40K is it allows your creative juices to a place to marinate,
Yeah. To stew in that. Yeah. Yeah, man, it's crazy. Like even that episode, our two guests on that episode, they didn't know each other, but like they were brought together through 40K, and it's so cool. Right. I also, another favorite memory of mine is my mom. She's really religious, so she's all about them Jesus. So I sent her a link to the Ecclesiarchy episode because I thought she likes religion. She might get a. She might get a kick about learning about the God Emperor of mankind. And in that episode, like the first 20 minutes, we had the longest intro ever. But we talked about like eating pussy. And
that's right.
Outlawed in Uganda. And like my mom listened to that episode.
Didn't say anything about it, right?
Oh, no.
She has selective hearing at that point. It's just like, I'm going to pretend I didn't just hear my son talk about that. Well, I honestly don't know if I could ever pass any links of this to my parents, even to my family, like my siblings or whatever. I'm not sure I'd let them listen.
Oh, man. Hear them out there on bus stops just slapping stickers on homeless people and stuff. But yeah, man, we've had some rowdy times. Like almost 5 years.
I remember probably one of the cooler things we've done outside of the podcast itself was run a tournament.
Oh yeah, man. We even got sponsors and stuff.
We did. We had Flare Games, and they were the ones that published Warhammer Combat cards.
Yeah.
And they provided the prize money for the tournament. They also gave us T-shirts that we were able to hand out. That was, and we ran the tournament. We even participated in the tournament. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we got smashed, absolutely smashed by. The winners were Imperial Fist and Eldar.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. What was that crazy combo?
And both were beautifully painted. I remember that. And I believe that both of those players, or at least one of them, competes in like the Canada circuit for 40K.
Crazy.
And he just demolished everybody. It wasn't like everyone else is having fun and having a good time. And then you go over, look at that table, and his opponent just has their head in their hands.
True depression.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm hitting on twos, wounding on twos, right? Like
rolling ones.
Yeah.
But it was so cool, man. Like we organized some event and like
people came and we had a pretty big turnout for that. It was like an all-day thing. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I remember doing our singular dice run that we did.
Yeah, so whoever got those dice, those are fucking national treasures now.
That's right.
Those are one-offs, man.
Yeah.
We talked like for a year. We're like, we should do some more dice, and then it just never happened. Yeah. Like we've done just so many crazy things. I can't believe we got signed by Spotify.
We got signed by Spotify. That was a weird one too. Yeah, I remember that.
You know how like Joe Rogan got signed by Spotify? Like
Michelle Obama got signed by Spotify.
Like exact same contract, just
that's right.
Zeros.
Well, a lot less zeros.
Yeah, but
working through that whole kind of professional circuit process also was new for me. Trying to talk to lawyers to look at the contract. That's definitely the first time I've ever in my life contacted a lawyer.
Yeah.
So, it was. I've been stretched through this,
Yeah, we got way more than what we thought we would when we first started this.
Yeah, I don't think anyone in like our first 4 months of like whether it was our friends or our listeners, I don't think anyone could have pictured where we are today.
Yeah, jeez. So where are we going? Like I'm going to Panama. I'm moving on to kind of just a different pace of life. How about you?
Yeah, well, now that Lorehammer is no longer going to be putting all the bread on my table, I'll be, I'm going to go back to like my regular kind of like work week. I'm going to try and find a job. I'm still doing some schooling. Yeah,
you've been in school for the last like 3 years for people who don't know and stuff. So
yeah. This has been a really easy job to do. Wow, also doing school, so
exactly
worked out really nicely.
It just worked out fucking perfectly.
We've been pretty blessed that way.
Yeah, geez, man. You're getting married too.
I am in 2023 is probably the hopeful date.
Nice.
For us.
Yeah, man, and that's it's so exciting. Like, you're kind of on to that next chapter of married life, and I swear, almost every time I see you, you mention having children, so that's nice too.
Some would say I'm baby crazy.
Yeah, and I'm so sad that I'm gonna miss out on your baby crazies and but I'll fly you down there.
Yeah.
Kidnap you.
I'll ship my child down to you so you can spend his summers with crazy uncle or his winters with crazy Uncle Mark.
Exactly. But like we're both like 30 plus years old, and we're both on to the next stage of our life, and it's just super exciting to kind of get going. And
it'll be nice to explore, like devote some energy that was devoted to this into another area.
Exactly. Yeah.
And for me, that area is going to be excessive amounts of pizza and video games, obviously.
And child rearing.
Oh, sorry, of course.
Yeah.
Well, wait, isn't that what your partner's for?
I don't know. I never got into the logistics of the whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's been crazy.
Even though Lorehammer is coming to an end, there are still many things to look forward to for both of us. So that's really exciting.
Yeah. I actually have some things I want to shout out. Like, I'm going to be still doing some podcasting and stuff. A lot of you have heard my Pillow Talk with Mark and B, my podcast that I do with my girlfriend. We're still going to be doing that. And man, it's weird. We kind of are falling into this weird like travel blog niche. Not niche, but like lifestyle accidentally. Like we bought this sweet drone and like, yeah, so we're going to be carrying on Pillow Talk with Mark and B and just
down in Panama, hey?
Yeah, and just continuing to talk and develop who we are and go on new adventures and just share it with people.
Well, it's cool that you're still going to have a pretty public online presence for all those people. There's lots of people that just enjoy hearing, us share things. So
yeah, exactly. And you can come follow me at Pillow Talk with Mark and B. And it's been really nice. The other cool thing that I want to announce, and this is super exciting too, is I'm starting another show as well. And it's called Lorehammer Listener Lore. You guys have written up over 1,000 stories, like literally. And I promised you guys like a long time ago, I'm like, yeah, I'll read them all. Little did I know what I was getting into.
Yeah, back when we thought we were going to get 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll read these.
Yeah, exactly.
But so basically I'm starting a daily podcast where I just pick one listener lore from that 1,000 pile stack and I share it with you guys. And then at the end, I give it a little critique and that's nice and life is good.
Yeah, so even, if you still want to send in your listener lore, don't be scared to do that because Mark will be picking it up and eventually get to it.
Yeah, and it's a different Patreon feed. So if you want to support Lorehammer Listener Lore, go support it that way. I got a bunch of cool tiers worked out where, hey, how many emails, Eric, have we got where people are just like, can you critique my lore? I want to read you my lore. Now you can do that live and you can read me your lore exactly how you want it. I'll say some jokes about it and it will be fantastic.
You're going to get trolled so hard.
Hey, I'll do anything for money. I'm a fucking whore like that. But yeah, like, so we're still going to be around, like, and Lorehammer, even though the main show is over, like the community is still here. What we've built is still here.
Yeah.
And
there's no reason to stop that awesome place we have for people to hang out. So
yeah, exactly. So, the final thing I guess we want to talk about before we go into the next little section here is just, if you're listening, you got to support shows. Like, even though the show Lorehammer is ending, you can still support us on Patreon. Like, I've heard so many times where people are like, I'm on my 4th go through of the podcast. So if 2 years go by and you pick up Lorehammer again, don't forget to subscribe while you're listening. It's content,
I think it's important to put money where you find value.
Yep.
And if you find value in the show, then I hope that you find enough value to consider monetarily supporting it.
Yeah, at least while you're listening,
Sure.
Or if you've gotten through all 100 and you haven't supported the show yet, just throw us $25. Like if everyone threw us $25 as a final thank you, it would be like life-changing for both me and Eric. Like seriously,
I'd be a billionaire.
Well, not that
much.
A
trillionaire?
Yeah. Think big, Eric. Think
That's right.
big.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Lorehammer has never been about money for us, but it sure fucking was nice that we got some.
Yeah. To be able to feel like I could focus solely on the podcast was pretty awesome. So you know what? Yeah. Even if you decide that you don't listen to us anymore, I think you should just support whatever show you're listening to at that time.
Exactly. Like that's what I do with all my shows now. Like you gotta support stuff, and people are taking time to do things. But I just want to say thank you to as well for everyone who did support us. Like from the bottom of my heart, like you guys changed my life financially. Like I was a fucking shitty electrician, and you guys got me out of that through your support, through your donations. Like thousands of people around the world got me out of out of that rut in my life. And I can't be grateful enough. Like, we're not wealthy. We did not get fucking huge amount of money off Lorehammer, but
we were sustained, and
we were sustained, and it got us.
It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, and it got us to be able to focus on other areas of my life where now I was able to develop out this or develop out that, where it just, you guys changed our lives, and I can't say thank you enough. It's incredible what you guys have done for us.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, man. Crazy. Eric, did you know I'm leaving Canada tonight?
Tonight?
Yeah. It's
no.
Yeah,
wow.
Man. Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah. Like, like this is sad too, because this isn't just like I'm saying goodbye to Lorehammer. Like, I'm saying goodbye to you, Eric.
Yeah. There's years of friendship here that, the number of times we just came over and just hung out in the garage and did modeling, or the tabletop RPGs that we developed together and played for hours.
Just the amount of memes we sent back and forth to each other over the years.
The late night reading in your room.
Yeah, man. When we lived together, you would read me a book to go to bed. Holy fuck. Oh man, it's crazy. Like, thankfully with technology, like, friendships are not over, but they change. And
they
things
do
change, and life is all about changing and adapting and growing. And yeah, man.
Our friendship will never die, Mark, but it will change.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm excited for you. I know that you've been talking about this with a lot of positive energy, and I hope you're going to be really happy where you are. So
yeah.
I think everyone deserves happiness. So
as long as my hand doesn't get macheted off, I think I'm going to be okay, But
yeah, probably.
Wow. Yeah. So we're not done the episode yet. We still got probably like an hour of content, maybe. One of the things we've talked about this a whole bunch is just our Discord community and all these friends that we've made along the way. And we want to be able to now share some of these friendships very momentarily with you. On our Discord server, we have our lore helpers, and I think there's like 10 of them, roughly.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And basically our lore helpers, when we were like, okay, what are they here for? And we basically are just like people that are chill and happy and just positive people. We don't have moderators. We just have positive people. So these people were just like, hey, you've been on the Discord. I've seen your name a whole bunch. People talk highly of you. You're a lore helper. Come join our crew, man. Like, come help make this a better place.
Yeah, these people are like devoted to making sure that they're upholding like the positive attitude that we have on there, the very welcoming attitude.
Yeah.
They're always willing to engage with people. And I think that was really important when we were kind of defining what they would do is, a lot of had to do with their character and their behaviors. So,
yeah.
But yeah, they're great people in and of themselves. So we figured might as well introduce them on the show.
Exactly. And some of them do have their own podcasts and stuff too. And it's been super cool just like watching how this community has developed a whole bunch of these podcasts. So,
sure.
Yeah. So let's jump into those and then we'll come back for one final thing.
All right. Welcome to our first guest to come on our show for our 100th episode. Welcome to Oblerone and Getchapul.
Hello, guys.
How are you guys doing?
Doing fantastic. Just got home from a long week.
Yeah, about the same. It's 5 a.m. here, so we're doing it.
That's perfect Discord hour, so technically.
Oh, yes. It's the dedication,
Yeah. So you two are two of our homies that we've made just through Lorehammer. We've kind of started hanging out through the Discord. Eventually, you guys became lore helpers. And we just kind of wanted to introduce the community to you guys. Me and Eric, everyone knows us, but our community is so much more than just me and Eric. So we're going to take some time to just get to know Blake and Oblerone and just kind of have a chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Happy to have it with us.
Yeah. Let's just start with an easy question. How did you guys get into Lorehammer? Or 40K even?
Over you shoot, brother.
I was big into Gunpla, and I was actually looking for a way to make a really big diorama. And through looking up dioramas and techniques to do that, I stumbled across a channel that was doing something with Necrons, and I was like, what the hell are these things? So I started looking them up and found out more information. It was like Warhammer 40K. This was right around the time where Indomitus was going to come out as well. So
also a bunch of new models.
Exactly. I was so excited to try it out. So I got together with a buddy who was in Warhammer previously, and here I am 1.5 years later with 4,500 points of Necrons, 3,000 points of Knights, 2,000 points of Blood Angels.
Lads.
Oh, I went so hard.
It happens fast sometimes.
It did. It really did. So, but I fell into Lorehammer because I really wanted to know more about the universe. And it felt like I can't read 400 or 500 books. So what is the next easy way for me to get into lore? And that would be, well, I found a podcast named Lorehammer and just started my episode I started actually just listening to the Necron specific ones because that was what I was interested in. But it soon took me like, oh, well, I'm going to have to listen to the previous one. Okay. No, I'm going to have to listen to the second episode because that was the War in Heaven episode, I think.
Yeah.
And I was like, I actually skipped over the first one, which was probably a good because the first episode was rough to get through.
How dare you, first of all.
Hey.
That was our crowning achievement, that episode.
The warp is like an ocean.
It is, in fact, an ocean. That is true.
How about you, Blake?
Ah, shit, man. I got into Warhammer in, like, the early 2000s. GW did like a Lord of the Rings subscription magazine here in Australia, and there was goblins, and I fucking love goblins. So I was like, let's go. So I bought those and sort of got yanked into the ethos of Warhammer, and I started buying White Dwarf magazines and learned what Warhammer 40K was. And then,
that's like the exact same story as me, like playing Lord of the Rings, and then, oh shit, there's something infinitely better beside it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
better
man.
hobby, not necessarily better lore.
Yeah.
But yeah, fucking. So I started smashing into that, just hanging out, listening to metal with my buddies, and painting models as you do. Did that for a few years, and then I sort of hit adulting and was like, oh yeah, and I sort of drifted away. And then I came back in to Age of Sigmar because, like, I was like, oh, yeah, cool, odd place, but it was big. And, yeah, started doing that and then got back into 40K inevitably. And I was getting my cousin into it because I'm like, he's like my understudy, he's everywhere. And fucking on that bad influence, like, hey, man, these models, So I got him into Sigmar and then we started doing 40K. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I wonder if there's any podcasts. And he actually found Lorehammer and was like, oh, here you go. And at the time I was driving a whole heap for work, doing like 500 kilometers a week just for transit. I was like, podcasts are the best, So fucking threw you boys in. I happen to think The Warp was a banger of an episode. So,
Traitor.
Yeah. Fuck the haters.
It's always hilarious when people message and they're like, yeah, I just listened to 40 hours of you guys this week, or whatever ridiculous number it is. Yeah, you were one of them, I think.
I just remember, like, I used to listen to it heaps, and, like, I did it in chronological order. So it was really weird seeing, like, 4 or 5 years going in that, space time that I was doing it, so.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, for us, we progress and change gradually, because it took us 4 years to do it. But to anyone coming in, once we have, like, a 3-year catalog or whatever, you can see a change probably so fast, just in, like, style of episode and recording. And yeah, that would be weird.
Yeah, don't bring your triptides, as Eric used to say.
Yeah.
Holy crap, I remember that. They were
Yeah, back when we used to play. Wow, what a world.
Crazy.
So what are some things that you guys have gotten out of the Lorehammer community? Because yeah, obviously you listen to the show, but like I'm saying, like it's so much more than just a show. Let's just talk about kind of our Discord for a second, how you guys started helping us be lore helpers and what you do for us, all that kind of stuff. Obleron, take it away. Are you typically a Discord person, or did you join Discord just for Lorehammer?
I actually didn't have Discord well, I had it before, but I was never active on it. And I actually joined it because, well, why the hell not? I had to do something more with my time, and I felt like maybe I could just join and be on the voice text channel just to be like doing something while I'm painting and talk to people at the same time. And I think that's the biggest thing that I got from the whole community or the Discord is the amount of people that are on here. They're all wonderful people, and it was just so amazing to find so many people that have the same interests, and I could talk to each one of these persons and get a conversation out, and it just kept flowing. And it was a rough time for me as well at that time, and it got me out of a rough patch, and I wanted to invest more into it and give back to the community.
I love that. Yeah, like I think for so many of us, 40K is a form of escapism, and we just use it to escape our shitty job or whatever. I know that's what I definitely do. And but eventually, you end up meeting these sweet new people, and like you start developing these friendships. I love it.
That's it. Yeah.
Blake, how did you join the Discord? Same question. Are you a Discord kind of guy, or are you just...
No, not at all. In fact, I hadn't even finished building my computer when I first joined. I was like so close, and I jumped in on my phone, and Eric spoke to me straight away, and I was like, hey, this is a really welcoming community. So I jumped in, and like honestly, I don't have words for how helpful it's been to me, because I'm a night shift worker, right? So when I finish work, none of my friends are awake. No one. So like being able to come in and just have that social interaction after work, and people to play games with, talk about music with, hobby, like it has been so unbelievably valuable to my mental health and just to my well-being in general. It's such a good community. Everyone's so fucking cool.
You know what's pretty cool about our community too? Like I feel like we don't get too controversial. Like there's never any politics talk happening, or there's never anything. We're all just there to hang out and have a laugh.
And I think the thing is too, the couple of times that does happen, everyone respects when people are like, hey, I'm just going to go to the other channel and because we're playing games. And everyone's like, cool, man. It's so rare, though,
It's because I ban anyone who doesn't talk about Warhammer.
Eric, I never talk about Warhammer.
That's cool. Obleron, what do you do? Like each one of our lore helpers, we have them kind of run a certain aspect of our community. What do you run?
What do you
I'm usually running contests together with Sam, Jono, and Eric does have some influence in there as well, but he pretty much gave us free reign in there. So
I'm a sounding board. If they need something, I'm there.
Yeah. Well, we come up with most of the ideas for all the contests, and we've announced a new contest just a few days ago. No, last month by this recording, I guess.
Like this year we're doing like a crazy armies on parade for Discord.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. It's real good.
Do you want to just give us like a 1 minute, 30-second kind of thing of what we're doing? Just in case people haven't heard.
We're basically going to paint a whole army across the whole year. So you can pick your army, do whatever you want with the army. You can do kit bashing, do some 3D prints, add bits here and there, paint it up, and by the end of the year, we will make sure that you have a beautiful painted army with a board that you can also send to GW and probably enter in here as well.
Yeah, we have people worldwide to enforce painting. So if you're having struggle painting, we do have people that will knock on your door and make sure you get it done.
That's right.
Yeah.
True. I've been knocks on mine all the time. It's terrifying. I don't know how he gets here so quick, man.
Yeah, the contests have been really cool. Like some months are just like, whatever, but some months have been really cool to see, like Halloween orc contests or short story contests. I've really enjoyed those too.
Yeah. I think my favorite was probably the 2-color challenge. Like, use 2 colors and black and white, and it was amazing. Actually, Drunken sent me his contest piece as well, so I have that on my shelf.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Drunken is the best.
Cool. And Blake, how about you? What do you manage for the Lore Helpers?
Honestly, man, I'm pretty new to the Lore Helper thing. Like, it's only been a couple of weeks, but in my experience, I'm usually the guy that's just chilling in the VC. There's no one there, and then all of a sudden, the party starts popping off. Just get your balls hanging out, playing some rock and stone, whatever. I just try and keep the community active and engaged. I'm not a bookwork person, but I know how to get it going, as it were.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. Like the voice channel will be empty, and then I'll look like 5 minutes later, and then there'll be one person on there, one of the Lore Helpers, and then 5 minutes later there'll be 15 people in there.
Yeah, always how it works.
Yeah. It just takes that first person. So congratulations on your job. Well done. I noticed it.
Oh, the boss noticed me.
No, not boss. No, we do this for you, the people.
Yeah,
we the people.
Yeah.
Wait, are the people the boss then?
Yeah.
Always. Isn't that how it always works?
Okay.
So the next thing we would like to talk to you guys about is what kind of lore, what kind of armies do you guys play? And do you have like a quick little, we always encourage people to write like your 1-sentence teaser for your army, or, I want to hear it.
I collect 4 different armies, as I mentioned before, and my lore will include like 3 of those armies. And a quick sentence would be a dying planet. That's it.
That was quick.
That is quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get
Maybe
excited.
we'll need a little more info.
Why is it dying? What's killing it?
Okay, so I got inspired by my girlfriend's plants, and I have a all-consuming fungus on my planet, and the knights, which I collect, are there to subdue the fungus, and together with the people on the planet, they make sure that they spray chemicals in the atmosphere to reduce the growth of this fungus, and then the knights can just sweep it away or use their thermal cannons and just burn it away.
Cool.
Yeah.
This fungus, does it infect humans at all, or is it just like a wildlife kind of thing?
More of a wildlife thing.
Okay.
It will take over the crops. So if the crops get destroyed, the Imperial tithe is not paid. You know what that means.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
God. Your knights are honestly some of the craziest out there. You LED them, you magnet them. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, it's been a very long project, and I think Blake joined when I was busy working on those. He saw me sweating away at them. It was a hard 6 months, but yeah, I've put so much time into it. I put LEDs in them, in all of them. I'm actually having 3 or 4 more now that I'm going to do the same with this year.
Nice. Where did you put the LEDs?
I put the battery under the carapace, and then I just drilled for the eyes, and then I drilled for the exhaust pipes on the big knights, and for the armatures, I just put it in the eyes.
Nice, very cool.
Yeah. And then the paint job to finish it all up, I made a green marble paint scheme with gold trim.
Cool. Yeah, it's very cool, and like that marbly kind of pattern is. Pattern is in all that green. They're so nice, basically. What I'm trying to say. They're fantastic.
I've seen a lot of people do that online, but I've never met anyone who is actually dedicated enough to put it in their models.
Oh yeah.
I always assumed that like those people existed somewhere else, not actually on Earth.
Oh yeah, and now you have one following you as well.
Oh god.
Yeah, I didn't have access to an airbrush either, so I hand painted every single one of them, and I even batch painter as well. So I painted 3 big knights at the same time.
Why?
It was terrible. I was crying a little bit by month 2.
Oh man.
I've never seen someone so sick of painting gold my whole life. He was he's like, no! I'm like, don't batch paint nights, bro.
Gold. 2 whole weeks of painting just gold trim.
That's nice.
Oh yeah.
And Blake, how about you? What kind of armies are you into?
Okay, so get us down real cliche. I have Space Marines, right? But the reason was I got my cousin into 40k because we went halves in the Indominus box, right? And I said I'd only do it if I could come up with a dope idea for a custom chapter. So the idea I came up with, I have Jurassic Park themed Space Marines. So what we've done. Yes. So all of my Marines, their color schemes are based off the Jeeps from the 1993 movie. And all of my vehicles, their color schemes are going to be based off the Ford Explorer. So that yellow and green with the red stripes. That's what's going down that. And the lore basically is there's paradise planets that all the high-ranking Imperial Guard guys go to hang
to retire,
out. Well, yeah, exactly. So this was one of those planets. And the Tyranids invaded. And all the higher-ups were like, hey, we can't let that fall, right? So they sent some people and they defended and chopped off the arm of the Tyranids. And then they were like, oh, let's turn this into a zoo. So they imprisoned all the Tyranids when they were unsynapsed. And then another tendril came in and they broke back out. And now they're like, nah, now we got to make a Space Marine chapter to send in to fight this because we don't want to lose our holiday spot. And so there was dinosaurs, Tyranids, and now there's Space Marines there. And Necrons have just woken up one world across. So shit's about to get real.
I like this simple reason of why your Space Marine chapter is created.
Yeah, well,
they're just like, hey, here's an immediate problem, and let's just found a Space Marine chapter specifically to fight this.
Well, to me, it just feels like, like the amount of corruption and shit like that would be in the higher up levels of the Imperium. It's like, that is something completely reasonable. It's just what they do. No one wants to lose their holiday spot. Send in the Space Marines. Fuck it.
So on this planet, do they have dinosaurs then? Or how does that theme Jurassic Park tie in?
So the dinosaurs were already there and sort of like, they were sort of contained, but once you mix dinosaurs with Tyranids, shit gets real.
Mm-hmm.
The dinosaurs can be contained by the Imperium. The Tyranids cannot. Not once they reset apps. So, and cool. The reason I did that was because basically my buddy plays Tyranids, like my other mate plays Tyranids, and my cousin plays Necrons, so I just threw it in a jar, and it is what it is,
Perfect. The final question for you about them is, how much fetish-sized are like dinosaurs in your chapter culture? Do they ride them? Do they wear dinosaur teeth? What kind of?
So okay.
How fetishized are they?
I haven't gone full Space Wolf on it. Luckily, because I don't need podcasts making fun of me. Yikes. No, look, they're basically just the color scheme. I'm going to add some some dinosaur skins and stuff like that to some of the higher up guys. And I am going to have a couple of them riding a few dinosaurs, but only like a couple. As if to say like, hey, we're on this planet. We might as well use these as an asset. But it's not going to be like fucking,
the rest
my
of Space
Raptor guard.
The rest of Space Marines in the chapter, like, I don't know why Greg's always riding that T-Rex around, but...
Yeah, exactly. There goes Bill again on that Dilophosaur.
Very cool. We're almost done. I got one more question for you. You guys have started your own podcast, and this has been another really cool thing about the Lorehammer community is there's been a bunch of smaller podcasts that have sprung out from this. So let's just take a minute or two and just talk about what your podcast is about.
Yeah, Blake, you want to take it away?
Yeah, so basically our podcast is called Knights of the Hobby Table. And it's a podcast about hobbying in general. Like, obviously, there'll be lots of 40k, but me, Obi, and my cousin, we all share similar hobbies, not like outside of Warhammer as well, like music and Gunpla and a whole bunch of other shit. And we just want to really bust it open and get a really good positive attitude about just giving hobbies a go. Because people have this mentality of you have to be good at it to do it, but that's not a hobby. You do a hobby to get better. So we just want to get that out there, get some positivity in the community, and get people trying new shit, or maybe picking up that hobby they put down because they were intimidated or they weren't as good as another guy.
Yeah, they tried painting, realized they don't know how, but now, they can listen to people, teach them, and teach how to do basing properly and all that. Yeah, very
exactly. And just that notion these days of, oh, you're not great at it, so you shouldn't do it. We want to delete that, you might not be Jimmy Page when you first start playing guitar, and you don't ever have to be, but learning the guitar is still a valuable thing, and we want that across everything. So we're going to bust it open. We're going to try some hobbies. We're going to have questions, and we just want it to sound like we're all hanging out in a room, to be honest. So it's going to be a real laid back, chill vibe.
Cool. So that's called Knights of the Round Table. So if anyone wants to go check that out, I recommend it. You guys are still recording the first couple episodes, but I'm sure it's going to be out any moment type thing. So keep your eyes peeled.
It was Knights of the Hobby Table.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. But it'll be dropping soon. Don't you worry. We just want to do it right. We don't want to disappoint our potential listeners. So.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you guys so much for everything that you've done for the Discord, and just, you're both Patreon members. I do know that. Just thanks for everything that you guys have done for Lorehammer. We really do appreciate the friendship that we've come to have over the years. So
We definitely appreciate the time too, and especially all of these lovely years that you guys have been slaving away at this podcast as well.
We've enjoyed every minute of it. I'm paid to say that, but
I mean, probably one of the only reasons we did it as long as we did is because of people like you guys. So.
Well, and it's crazy too. The reason we started doing Lorehammer, I went back and I listened to episode 0. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm sick of meeting people off of Kijiji. I just want real friends to play Warhammer with. And now I got that. We have this fucking awesome community of thousands of people. And I'm so glad that you guys are a part of it. So
thanks for giving us the place to get to meet other people. So
I'm honored to be a part of it, and thank you guys for putting out such awesome content that just brings everyone in. The community needs that, so you guys are good too. Don't forget it.
Cool. All right, thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah,
on to the next interview.
See ya.
Bye.
Well, hello to our next interview, to Matt, someone who has been with us probably for a very long time. I can't even remember. It must have been in the first 4 months or something.
I think when I joined you on Podbean, you had 8 followers. Or 13 or something. So.
Wow, you really took a chance on us, eh? Took a chance on that listen.
You guys were my first podcast, man.
Was it a good experience, Is it something you wrote about in your diary later?
On my diary? Yeah, just scribbling. I do cave drawings and it was pretty wild, man. When I first started listening, I was like, you guys were my first podcast. So you effectively broke me into this wild world of just listening to nerds online and assuming they're gods. Oh my god, this guy's a celebrity.
It's been crazy, man. Out of all the people that I've met through Lorehammer, you've been the number one. You've been the one that I've talked to the most. You've been the one that's just, you were there for so long, man. And, I can't wait to talk to you, share some more about, just our relationship, what you do for the community, kind of, let's talk Lorehammer. That was a whole big situation. So let's just dive into some of it.
I'd love to.
What was the first message you sent to us?
Okay. So I knew this was coming up. So I remember in one of the episodes very early in, Mark told a story about when he had poo-pooed himself and he had to look his neighbor directly in the eye. And I remember the end of the episode, he was like, oh yeah, if anyone's got any shit stories, write in. And that is, that's my expertise, man. That's where
you really shine.
Honestly, it's probably one of the only things that I've put on my CV that's true, is pooped self on multiple occasions. But I told him a story about when I was younger, and
I came to realize I wasn't alone in this world.
Yeah. I mean, just to briefly gloss over it, I came out of the shower in a towel on holiday. It was my first time eating seafood, I should say. My brother and my dad were sat down. For the life of me, I don't know why, but I opened up the back of the towel and I was like, hey guys, I've got gas. And I farted and I saw that look of abject horror on their faces.
Oh no.
Yeah, right. And, told this story to Mark, and I think he saw a kindred spirit.
Yeah, man. I'm so happy there's other people doing not only Warhammer out there, but also shitting themselves.
Yeah, right. As full-grown adults,
I feel so connected.
Right? I mean, it truly, that is my one. That was how I got the hooks in. That was how I first started. I remember Eric messaging me I was at the mall with my girlfriend and I just burst out laughing and I was like, got it.
Cool. So yeah, you've obviously listened to every episode of Lorehammer 18 times. Do you have a favorite or a favorite series or?
Well, I mean, the Sisters of Silence was pretty damn good. Mainly because I was on it. I got to go to Canada and see my boys.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's crazy. You flew to Canada. You hung out with me for a week.
Yeah, man. We got there. I saw you in person. It's we had been chatting together for a long time as well, I suppose. And yeah, so I said, I'm coming over there. And then just showed up at your house, man, with my missus, a couple of bags. I was you took me to the play park within the first hour. I've still got a video of me wrecking my testicles on the swing set.
Yeah, I'm a great host,
Yeah, but obviously that kind of stands out for me. James is on that episode. He's a totally awesome guy. That's it. Going over there, I can is one of those things where I can still picture it in my head. But there's so many top tier episodes, man. Some of the shit you boys have gotten up to over the past couple of years has been a question for you. There must be some things that you think you've whether you know it or not, there must be some things where you look at the Warhammer community and you're like, this was because of us. Someone's been listening over at Warhammer community.
People often say that we came up with the warp is an ocean, but that's been in the lore for a long time. I've definitely maybe expanded on it with
you memed it. That's what
I memed it. Meme it yeah, but maybe I came up with the webway as a tunnel that goes under the ocean. Yeah, but I'm gonna take full credit for all of it now.
Yeah, I mean, I would personally. 4 years of writing, pretty much on me. But yeah, you guys have done crazy stuff over the past few years. But yeah, there's so many good episodes, man. I can't pick a favorite.
Fair enough. You've done some crazy things too, man. We had Oblerone and Get Your Pull on, and they started a podcast because of it. You also started a podcast too, and you started Let's Talk Lorehammer. Let's talk about that for a minute.
I did, yeah. So this was me and my boy Dylan, Big D, on the mic. So we wanted to do something that just kind of showcased the community. I was on the Discord for a long time, back before it was even as big as it is now. But there were so many interesting things happening. It was the amount of, unfarmed content that I saw there.
Low-hanging fruit.
Oh my God, the lowest of fruit I could just scrape up and put into a big jug and get on with, man. But there were so many people doing so many things. And, I think particularly me, it's like I said, coming on to your show was incredible for me. And just to give someone a little bit of a highlight in this kind of community where they're all doing such awesome things, it just seemed the natural thing to do.
Yeah, it was so sweet. People would you'd pick kind of a topic for the week, then everyone would just flood your inbox with messages on that topic, or, it might be as simple as, what kind of crazy food do we have in 40K?
Yeah. We were really flying by the seat of our pants the whole way. It was, is it very much improvisational kind of thing. You know, we had so many people writing in, so many cool stories. Just all of our episodes were based off of ideas from the community, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think the fact that it was so much fun is that it's such a fun community that you guys have like kind of created here.
Yeah. And then, you know, everyone starts memeing and joking, and just your episodes got so fun and wild. They were crazy. Yeah. Like just everyone working together to just try to build something cool, you know?
Yeah, we did some crazy stuff. I remember our RPG episode was like a fan favorite, but probably the worst experience of my life. Like crippling 2 hours.
Yeah, that was a situation that I didn't know how to do that red paint fast or whatever RPG idea.
Yeah, right.
Threw us into the craziest world, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Oh man, but yeah, like I think that was the great thing about Warhammer, and Lorehammer in particular. Like, it's such a relaxed community, and it makes for such fun. You know, when you don't have a bunch of people who are sticklers for the rules and like really hard up on what you can and can't do in Warhammer. You know, it's like. Yeah. You know, we've all got rules and stuff, but there are things that you can play with and have fun with, like, and that, like, honestly, I think you guys like just created a place where it's so easy to do that, you know?
Yeah, where you could just post your shit and people will be like, "That's sweet, show us more."
Oh yeah, instead of like the salt farm that the internet can, and, like. I've seen like a lot of communities seem to suffer from that still, and it's nice that like, well, you guys have been 4 or 5 years now, and it's just still not crapped up. So
yeah. What is probably your favorite thing been about the Discord?
Oh man, I think it's the connectivity. Like, I spend far too much time on the Discord just talking to people. I'm usually in the voice chat most days out of the week for a good few hours a day.
Yeah, I think voice chat is my favorite too. You know, you get in there, you just start talking to random fucking
people. Like pictures of cats is good. But when you can get like real nitty gritty with someone who comes from a completely different culture or walk of life from you, and yet like there's always one thing that brings you together, and it's like, I think I've always said, like, the genocide, man.
Genocide in 40K.
You don't
40K
wish
only, to clarify.
Oh yeah, sure, of course. I mean,
wink, come join the Discord and find out the truth. Wink.
Yeah, exactly. Secret meetings on Wednesday, but it was more the fact of like, you know, Warhammer is such a niche, and that, like, you know, I've said it before, it's like a Russian doll of like niches within niches. You know, like you can go so ingrained into it, but it's the one thing where you can find common ground with people, and you know, like even without going into the hobby side of it so much, like people who listen to your podcast know what to expect. You know, you guys put the foundation of how to interact with each other, because how you interact with each other and your guests and stuff,
screaming.
Like, yeah, right. But the fact that I think we put it past that we can scream at each other, but we can get to an agreeable point at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not
at least
saying
90% of the time, you know.
Yeah, right. Like, I'm not saying the Discord's not all screaming, but like sometimes it's good, you know.
Yeah. Each one of our lore helpers is kind of in charge of like a different thing. What do you kind of do specifically? What are you in charge of?
Oh man, that's a deep question. You know, I would say like, spiritual guidance more so than anything.
You're the chaplain.
Yeah, right. Just keeping everyone on the straight and narrow. No, you know, I've done a couple of things like over the kind of past week. I've dipped into some projects with Lorehammer, the Necrommunity project, which is kind of my baby, but Bob's like is like the child who I fathered and then left with Bob to raise. I went out for milk and cigarettes, like, and I'm like, he constantly gives me updates like, I need child support, and I'm like, but no, yeah. So we did Necrommunity, which was kind of like funded by the, like, well, I say funded, ideas generated by the community to kind of build a Necromunda 2.0 and kind of say, well, let's take a hive world and design it ourselves, which came to a load of like unique things. It's still ongoing at the moment. We're still like putting things together and getting things hooked up and stuff. But you know, one of my favorite episodes in the whole Lorehammer library was the episode with you and only one Bob and Eric, where we just developed a hive city for Necromunda. And it was so cool. Like we all came in with no idea, and then we just came up with this cool harpoon sail ship thing. And oh my god, bone planks.
Yeah.
Bone planks.
Bone planks.
It had that awesome aspect of like being really cool and fitting the setting, but also that disgusting grim darkness that exists in 40K, which is something you really only get to flesh out when you're hanging out with people, you know? Yeah,
right. And that was kind of the whole idea behind the project. That's like what we want to see on like a big scale, and is what we ended up seeing. Like it was very much a like kind of social experiment when it comes down to it, because you get a bunch of Warhammer nerds in a room and like be like, build a planet, and everyone is gonna kick out. Like you're gonna get cool stuff, but you're also gonna have people like, oh no, that doesn't work with that, and this doesn't work with that. But it was kind of saying like, right, let's all just get together, sit down, like in the kind of way that we did, and just, you know, have fun with stuff and like and then, think of cool ideas.
Think of cool ideas, flesh out ideas. Oh, that one doesn't work that well. Let's fit it in here though. Like it's just been so fun. It's been so good.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of the golden moments, and like, all credit to Bob. I will say, like, he is real good at like managing stuff like that. It wouldn't be half what it is without it, but
yeah, very cool. So we got one more question for you. Do you have a favorite army, and have you done like homebrew lore for like an army that you've done?
Man. So the only homebrew lore that I've actually done is Lorehammer Adventures.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Which has been covered heavily. And as a matter of fact, I happen to have chapter no, I didn't. I'm not gonna do that to you guys. No, I've been asked this so many times, man. I just cannot pick a favorite army, you know, man. And I know like people are like, oh well, I just like, it's like asking people what music they like now. I like a little bit of everything. But you know, I like to read the more granular stories, so I look into like Necromunda quite a bit, and like the Warhammer horror stuff, and you know, I think if I had to pick maybe like Imperial Guard, but it's seeing someone who's up against all of this other stuff, you know. That's what's great about Warhammer, and that's why it's so expansive. It's just not one facet that you can kind of break up into a million pieces.
Yeah, exactly. It is hard to pick your favorite faction because they're all fucking sweet.
Yeah, right? And the more you read about it, even if you think a faction sucks, it's only because someone's told you it sucks. It's never because you've actually read anything yourself. It's like, that's the main thing with the Warhammer. Like,
I agree. Like, if you took the time to look into every faction yourself, there is something in each faction for everyone.
Oh, yeah. I've always said, like, the worst 40K book is still a good book, because you still probably learn something.
Even, like, the Space Wolf episode that we just recently released, while it's probably, like, one of my least favorite things in 40K, that was a great episode. And it was a lot of cool stuff in there outside of the memes that get tossed around like salt spreading online.
Yeah, right. It's like the stories of like Lucas the Trickster, where he's just awesome, and he goes around giving people fleas and shit. Like, it's you know, there's some good fun in 40K, and that's what I really loved about Lorehammer. It never took 40K too seriously. You guys just bounced off of each other. You have to see it for what it is, because like it is the ultimate in dark satire, you know. You have to be able to look past it and be like, okay, I cannot connect with this story on a personal level, because otherwise I'm psychopathic. You know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, very cool. Thanks so much, Matt, just for being my friend, for everything that you've done for the Lorehammer community, for Necromunity, for the Discord, all these things, for Let's Talk Lorehammer, all these sweet things that you've helped us do over the years. I know also, too, like a year ago, I checked out who was our biggest Patreon supporter, and you were on that list, and you were the number one. I'm sure you're right back up there still or whatever. So you know what, Matt? We love you. We appreciate everything you've done for us.
Man, I love you guys, and I'm sure I speak for a lot of people saying, "I fucking dare you." And this, no, I'm sure I speak for a lot of people just saying, like, yeah, what you guys have done over the past couple of years, like, not only building a business, but building a community, building like a refuge for nerds to kind of chill out and stuff. And like, honestly, you know, you guys have become dear friends to me, and you know, hate to see it end, but I'm so stoked that you guys are, you know, just living your best life. And like, episode 100, guys, what the fuck? Have you actually counted up all of the hours of content that you've done?
We will have to though, but
I mean, I want to see it, man. Like, you see people's playlists and it's like, I've listened to 21,000 hours of Lorehammer, and I'm like, are there that many hours?
Those are rookie numbers.
Yeah,
Matt
yeah,
pulls out
like,
his.
Yeah, like fast forwarded 4 times speed. Like, I really get it in there. But yeah, you guys, like, is incredible, man. Thank you to you guys from the whole. I feel like I can say it from having a community-based podcast, but from the whole community, like, thanks to you guys for, you know, being a source of inspiration and, like, you know, a little bit of a gathering point in a community that can get a little bit confused and twisted. Like, it is nice to have guys who set a standard, and just, you know, with all the other podcasts coming out that you guys have inspired or have been in touch with the community, like, I just hope to continue seeing that go along.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Well, yeah. Thanks, man. We love you.
Thanks, you guys.
Cool. Off to the next interview.
Oh, guys, have fun. I hope the next guy's as good as me or better, maybe.
Not likely.
Well, I said
and on to only one Bob.
Worst. Okay, enjoy that. I'll see you guys later, and thanks again.
See you, Matt. Welcome to our next members to be interviewed. Joining us, we have Sam and Jono. Welcome, both of you guys.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to finally have you two on. We've chatted a bunch, but never on a recording before, so super sweet.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens.
People what they want.
Yeah.
When these people live all the way across the world, you know, it's hard to get everyone to come to the garage. So then we just decided, screw it.
Yeah.
We got to have you on remotely, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm guessing a few people wondering who Sam is.
Yeah. Which one of you is Sam? Well, obviously you, the one that just talked.
I am Sam, also known as Ursats on the Discord.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, I do have a meerkat. Yes, they are legal in Japan.
The two big questions everyone asks when they first meet you.
Once a month, I get the same question.
Yeah, and then you blow their mind. Well, I actually have 2 of them.
I have 2 of them now. I don't know where they went. They are here. I haven't lost them. They're not outside.
Very cool. So you guys are both 40K enthusiasts. How long have you been in 40K? Jono, you want to start?
Okay, recently, probably about maybe 3 years, got back into it. Before then, took a very, very long break. So probably, I'm showing my age here, probably about 19 years of a break.
Nice, a veteran.
Yeah, back in the old days, man, blast markers and all that sort of stuff. I just recently got back into it when I discovered a certain podcast that got the juices going.
Do you listen to like a lot of podcasts regularly, or were you specifically like, I need 40K?
I did for a while, but I don't think any of them were like really what I was after. A lot of it was like competitive sort of stuff, and you know, like battle reports and all that sort of blah 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 blah.
Kind of just trying to find the new meta every time.
Yeah, and I was just like, what the hell's a fucking meta? Like, I was just like, oh, that's how long I've been out of it for. So then I was just like, you know what? I'm more interested in like the background, the lore, and all that sort of stuff. And my older brother sort of said, "Oh, here, check these guys out. Like, they're a bit derpy, but like they get into some pretty cool stuff." And that's how I discovered Lorehammer.
Derpy seems a pretty adequate way to describe us. Honestly.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of love behind it. Let's put it
that. Yeah. Sam, how about you?
I think I started towards the end of third, so just before fourth came out. So I don't even know how long ago that was. I was still, I think, beginning of junior high school, so about 14, 15. But it wasn't like games, so my brother had a friend that had stuff. So we just assumed all the rules, bought Lord of the Rings figures, I think, first. Yeah. And like a Russian tank, and then somehow thought of rules of how to assault a tank with goblins.
Yeah.
I think then after that, we just got the third edition starter set.
Was that the Black Templar one?
I think it's the one with the crashed ship, and it has like not a full army. It's like 10 Marines and a random lieutenant and some Nids, I think it was.
Yeah, the Battle for McCraig.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
Had that cool crashed pilot guy with the pistol and like the warrior. Yeah.
Lieutenant Varys, I think. I think I've still got him. I think it's the only thing I have left from that.
That's kind of crazy. There's probably combined number of years of Warhammer experience just between the four of us. It's got to be like over 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
That's a
what
long
was
time.
it worth? That's the question.
Okay.
That's funny enough. You're not even the first person to tell us, Sam, that you started with Lord of the Rings minis.
Oh, yeah. I think because I'm from New Zealand, so that was like a big thing for us. Like, it might even be the only thing we have going for us at this point.
I don't know. I heard something about a lot of sheep down there.
Oh, yeah. We have 3 sheep per person.
That's their currency.
It's cheap when you're born.
It's also a unit of measurement and weight.
Yes.
There's like, how far is it? Oh, it's about 30 sheep down the lane, you know?
Yeah, we don't use Ks and miles. We're going about 14 sheep per hour.
That's right. Yeah.
It's so good to see like sheep jokes coming from the non-Australian towards the Kiwi, so that's good. It's a word.
That's okay. We'll put some shrimp on your Barbie later, John.
Oh,
no. No one calls them shrimp here. Oh, that's so annoying. Triggered.
So you guys found Lorehammer. What made you finally come to the Discord, and then what made you stay?
What was I doing? I found it as an excuse to stop laughing on a train. So I thought, like, the podcast I'm listening to now is kind of weird. Like, you're a white person in Japan laughing in the middle of a train that's crowded with Japanese people. I thought, this might be too weird. I'll go find something else. What's not funny at all? Warhammer. There we go. Let's go. And then you guys didn't change anything and started laughing. And then I think I found Mark on Instagram on like a live thing, and he egged me into paying for Patreon. And then I went to the Discord.
Holy fuck. Yeah, man. I remember doing those live streams. Those were so fun. But then, once we got the Discord going, now it's on here.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I think for me, it was like really late at night, and like obviously, like I followed you on the old school Facebook, and I was like, I think I had a couple of nips of sherry or something over the fireplace. I think I was messaging someone on Facebook Messenger. I don't know if it was Mark or Eric, and then it just led to me jumping in the Discord and getting swindled to Patreon as well, I think.
No.
It's good to see that our scam works and has longevity, you know?
Hey, look, I'm delivering the feet pics that we promised. You know?
Right.
Everyone gets their fucking monthly Eric feet pics. It's fine.
I'm pretty sure one that I got wasn't a foot.
It was a foot long, but it wasn't a foot.
Foot long, or in New Zealand terms, an eighth of a sheep?
Yeah, one foot hoof.
Yeah.
So So what kind of do you guys do? Homebrew lore, or do you guys like just like what makes you tick in the 40K universe?
I think for me, it's conversions. I think I like that more than anything else. Just looking at people making weird stuff.
Okay. And are you quite crafty yourself?
I'd like to think I am. I mean, looking back at some of the first things I do, I think this is just horrible, though. Like, oh, I put like a Tyranid arm on a Space Marine. This looks amazing. And then now, what are you doing?
Yeah. Every now and again, Eric will just troll me by saying, "Hey, Mark, yeah, you remember that Black Templar I made, right?"
So just the other night, I was really in the mood to troll Christian, and I'm surprised, Mark, you didn't like comment on this at all. But I went in our WhatsApp group chat.
Yeah.
Did you read it, Mark?
Oh yeah, I read it all. Okay.
I started with wait, here we go. Okay. No one was talking in our group chat, and I said, homebrew lore idea for female Space Marines. And I got a message instantly from Christian. I already don't want it, but go ahead.
And then, the phone blows up for 15 messages, and, Yeah. What a way to trigger some people.
I haven't changed. John, what about you? What scratches your 40K itch?
I wouldn't really say converting, because it's not really my bag. But a dabble, but more just the paint jobs, man. Like some of the stuff that you see, even with some of the guys on the Discord, Instagram. It's just, for one, it's inspiring and awe-striking, but also kind of makes you ashamed and put down your brush and don't want to pick it back up again.
Don't you dare, Jono. You are one of those guys that other people look at and say, holy fuck, I'll never do that. You're a very talented painter.
It was like that paint contest we had. I'm like, oh, I've got this in the bag. And then you just see John, I'm like, okay, no.
I think your painted Ultramarines are still some of my favorite models I've ever seen come out of Lorehammer people.
But I'm gonna tear up. I promised myself I wouldn't cry. No, I appreciate that. It's obviously I started off way back when with Chaos Black Legion, because I do have a big soft spot for Abaddon. I think he's one of the greatest characters they've wrote, and I knew techniques and stuff, and then I like the aspect of the Ultramarines. I know they cop so much shit being the blueberries, and we take it in stride, but I like the sort of Romanesque feel to it. So I just sort of took that and ran with it, and
made them nice and shiny, and
Oh yeah, you gotta put some love into it, I guess. Because I enjoy it. I enjoy painting. Some people, not naming names, I have to beat with a cattle prod or a sheep to get them to paint some of their models. And,
I don't know who you're talking about.
They lasted for a week and then blocked me on all socials. But I enjoy painting. I find it relaxing.
Well, not only do you enjoy painting for yourself, but now you've decided to share it with a bunch of other people through your own podcast.
Yeah, that's right. I met a beautiful, young, talented Englishman on your Discord. Only one Bob, or Bobbert, or Bob Back Mountain, as I like to call him. And we just gelled really well. And he's quite creative. He's a really good scenic terrain builder, and you can't paint an Ultraman to save his life. But we got together.
When you want to, though.
We got together and we formed a podcast all about the hobbying aspect of 40K, and you can use it for Age of Sigmar, D&D, whatever you wanted, role playing. that sort of thing. Yeah, it's.
Do you enjoy doing? Do you enjoy doing bases and stuff as well?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Short answer. I just do simple bases, man. Like I just a bit of technical paint, a few rocks and pebbles.
A tuft of grass if they're really lucky.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh look, I've got a resin base already done for me.
Yeah. That's when you know it's like a nice paint job if there's a couple of tufts of grass on there. It's like,
this guy must be a captain.
Yeah. That's it. Go with my other 15 Primaris lieutenants that I've got. So we're our podcast is called the Hobby Happy Hour. We've been around. I think we just celebrated a year.
Wow.
It's been good, man. We've had some cool guests on. Mark, you came on for one episode. We're still yet to get Eric on.
That's
funny. You got to actually do the hobby though.
Bob said the same thing. He's like, yeah, we still haven't had you on, Eric, though.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we sent the email out. I did click send. I'll check the outbox. Eek. Awkward. Yeah.
Ursats, do you have any favorite lore? What's your favorite army or faction?
I've always loved the Night Lords, but I just didn't have first the money to cover it when I was a kid, and then second, just there's lightning bolts everywhere. I just didn't think I could do them. And then my parents, sorry, mom and dad, they gave me $5,000 just out of we've got 4 kids. You've been ignored long enough. Here's $5,000. And they're like, it's for resetting your driver's license. Little did they know, I spent most of it on models.
Most of it?
As one does.
The rest, I felt bad after a while, after the first $3,000. I'm like, okay, better get something for my wife. So I bought her a sewing machine. Now she makes meerkat clothes.
Fantastic.
Yeah. But now I have, I think, about 3,000 points built of Night Lords. I've got Conrad, I've got Sevatar. I've made a custom demon prince for the painted count, everyone's least favorite Night Lord. I've done most of their heresy books, read most of them, listened to most of them.
Yeah.
And then apart from that, I've got 2nd edition Harlequins, a whole lot of them that haven't been painted. I've got a whole lot of.
Have you been able to paint them all checker patterned and crazy? Or?
I tried. It's hard. It's almost, some would say, impossible.
I swear, GW photoshopped some.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm convinced there's at least a little bit of photoshopping on some of those.
I'd say so, because the Harlequins now are small enough, but those ones are I don't know how big, half a sheep hoof tall, around that big. There's just no way. I'm gonna do that. And then I have Seth from the Flesh Terrors. He's a pretty up. I think he might be my favorite captain ever.
So
did he just get a new model?
I don't know. There's someone on one of the White Dwarfs made a Primus version of him. But I just have the regular old school one.
Nice.
So do both of you play already established armies then? Jono, you play Ultramarines, or you collect and model, build and paint, and Sam, you do Night Lords. So neither of you have ever created your own homebrew, at least chapter even?
I think I dabbled when I first started. I had Space Wolves, but they weren't Space Wolves. I was using them to make Scottish Marines.
Oh, cool.
So I thought maybe I could do something with that, but I just never get around to painting anything. So they just died.
Oh,
probably
put it out back.
Yeah. Took them out the back in the shed.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that's fine. That's cool. Like, yeah, some people just get drawn right into the one chapter. They're just in it.
Yeah, you resonate with it, you know?
Yeah.
Some people
I mean,
are
I've always
Romans,
liked
I guess.
Yeah. I think some of it, for me, like, I like Batman. I like that kind of stuff. So that just connected with that.
Yeah, I can see the connection between Night Lords and Batman.
Yeah. Batman definitely kills people.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, thank you guys. I think that's all the time. But yeah, thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for being a part of our Discord. It's chill just hanging out.
Yeah, thank you. No, like, well, if anyone should be thanking, it's you guys. Like, you've provided content, platforms, communities. Yeah, so like for me, it'd be like a thank you. Like, you know, the communities, like, it's. I was gonna say, like, it means a lot, but it's not ever, like, you know what I mean. Like, yeah. So for me personally, like, yeah, I'd say thank you to you both for what you do.
Well,
We
yeah,
just
it's for
hang
people
out.
like you, John. So
Oh, stop it!
yeah.
There's my allergies again.
Yeah, it's been really fun to hang out with you guys for the past couple of years. It's kind of crazy to think of how long I've actually known a lot of the people on the Discord.
Like, for me, it's especially special. Like, I live in a country where no one speaks English, or if they do, it's like, this is a pen and that's it. But like, for me, having people I can talk to every day in English has been amazing. And then it's just a bonus on top that it's 40K and it's filled with people that are more than happy to share ideas, talk about stuff. Yeah. So thank you guys for that. It's been great. Great use of time.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought that?
Not according to
Not my mom.
Oh, I love it. Awesome. Thanks
Awesome.
again, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Hello to our next interviewee from the Discord. With us today is Epic Taco. Hello, Epic Taco.
Howdy.
Will I finally ever know your real name? Like, you can't just be Epic Taco. No,
It's not allowed.
Okay.
This is the real name.
I can DM it to you.
Okay.
Keep it secret. Keep it safe.
Epic Taco, how's it going?
It's going pretty good.
Nice. I think you're pretty much one of our newer lore helpers, but you've been on the server a while.
Yeah, I think me and Gitcha are the two most recent. So
Yeah, nice.
I've been there at least a year.
Yeah, like, I've seen you around for a long time, you know. So
Yeah.
So let's talk about 40K. What kind of got you into Warhammer 40K and kind of Lorehammer, and yeah.
The models, really. I was like, I want to build some stuff. I want to paint some stuff. I was looking for stuff to practice painting D&D models with. I'm like, how do I get a big box of models all at once? 40K. Look at this, 30 Fire Warriors or whatever for, I'm like, okay, this will work. And then I'm like, oh, there's a lot to this. I need to figure out what I've actually bought here. And then I went on YouTube and watched a bunch of stuff. I'm like, okay, well, while I'm at work, let's find something to listen to. And then Lorehammer and
Nice. So you're a D&D guy first, and that's kind of how you got into the miniature side of things?
Yeah, because it was like, because me and some friends wanted to like start playing D&D. So I'm like, okay, let me get some minis and stuff together. And I'm like, okay, because I ended up being the DM because I'm the only one who can keep anything going.
It's the forever DM trap, is what it is.
Yeah, it is.
And don't you ever give some a good DM experience, because then they'll want you again.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, well,
yeah.
I guess
You're always like, now. I can be the DM, and then you're just the worst DM possible.
And then no more invites.
Yeah, you mind if I DM again? Yeah, that I have twice as many 40K stuff as I do D&D. So I mean,
have you ever done any 40K RPGs before?
No, been kind of interested in it. Because one of my friends also wants to try like the Fallout ones. There's like a Fallout themed one, and then the 40K one. So I'm like, oh, maybe someday.
Someday.
Give it a try. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got one shot here or there.
Yeah. I think one shots are really good for 40K. Like just one mission where you're a space marine rampaging through some small Xenos village, and that's all you need.
90% of the time, your characters are going to die at the end anyway.
So. Exactly.
If you're a space marine, it's almost like if you don't die, you failed.
Yeah.
If you haven't gloriously given up your life.
Yeah, it's better to die for the Emperor than to live for yourself.
That's right.
To die.
So did you keep collecting Tau after your first box, or did you branch out?
Yeah. Tau and AdMech, but Dark Mech themed AdMech, because that's cooler.
Dark Mech, yeah, cool. So how do you convert that? How do you do that up?
I've mostly just been chopping up AdMech, and like I have one is the God, I can't remember what it is, but it's one of the tech priests. So like I took it apart and took his legs off, gave him nothing but like tentacles, so he's like crawling around. But he's got like 2 extra arms. It's neat.
Perfect.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, like that's a faction I'm crossing my fingers that we get to see more minis from. I think we only have like one hero character or something like that.
It's a missed opportunity for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Because I was like 50% Oryx or AdMech. I couldn't choose. Cause I'm like, I want to do something I can kit bash really easy, and AdMech it's just slightly cooler.
Yeah. So, I'll never forget kind of like how Colin described the difference between like styles of Dark Mech and AdMech, where it's like one is like more shelled bugs, kind of like beetles, and then one is more like praying mantids and more like of these aggressive looking bugs.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like
they're not defensive anymore, they're aggressive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, it's a very cool way to kind of describe that Dark Mech kind of vibe.
Yeah. No, I like them. They're cool. And Tower the army I think I'd actually play, and AdMech are just kind of for fun to just build and paint.
Well, you want to win, right? So.
Well, it wasn't because I didn't even know any of the rules at all when I bought them. And I'm like, I like their style. I like their style. They're nice clean lines, and then Dark Mech is the complete opposite. So
I don't believe any Eldar or Tau player that tells me that.
I don't want any of their tanks. I think their tanks are ugly.
How dare you? I love fucking hammerheads.
Skills, and that's it. Maybe some broadsides. I don't know. I just like the big robots.
Yeah. There's some sweet fucking robots, man.
Yeah, I got like 4 squads of stealth suits, and I just like the robots. It's cool.
If people wanted to donate money to a GoFundMe page for you so you could then buy a Tau Nar Supremacy battle suit, where would they go?
I can set that up. I mean,
Go fund my Warhammer addiction.
Epic Taco Edition. Go check that out. Go help Epic Taco get the best battle suit of them all.
It is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I love the gun arm on that thing, where it's like a minigun made out of other miniguns. It's so cool. I'm like, I just want this.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Yeah. So what's kind of been like? You said you've been on the Discord for a year. What do you like to do on here? Are you just a lurker mostly? What's your?
No, not really. I mostly hang out on the pets. Everyone hangs out on the pets. And the work in progress and finished projects I like, but usually I'm just sitting in chat or lurking in chat, gaming or watching other people play something.
Yeah, man, it seems like somebody's always streaming some new game or something.
Yeah. Anytime I'm in there, and if I'm playing something, I'll stream it just because my computer can handle it, so I do it. Entertain the masses.
Yeah.
I like seeing people's progress over time too. It's nice. You see someone post something from like 3 months ago, and it's like, and then the like most recent one is like, yeah, that's better. You know, it's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, some of those channels, yeah, they're good. Just once a month you go in there and just, whoa, there's a whole whack of pictures now.
Yeah. And the contests are cool too. I like seeing what people can come up with when they're motivated.
Are you going to be participating in the Lorehammer Armies on Parade thing we're doing this year?
Yeah. Maybe. We'll see if I get around to it. I'll try.
You know it's in your lore helper contract that you have to.
This ghost kill has been sitting here on this paint stand for about a month now. One color outline. But it'll get there.
Have you created lore for your Tau at all?
Or your Dark Admech?
Or Dark, yeah.
Kind of a little bit for both, very loosely. It's kind of if I ever finish, I'll write something up for it. But the Dark Mech are supposed to be based on an old, it's they were Admech, but then they got stranded on a mining asteroid or something. So all their equipment is kind of mining based.
Okay.
So it's very industrial and stuff, but it's all kind of worn down because they don't have new parts coming in or anything. So they've turned a little bit to make do. And they're oh well, if we can't power it with this, we'll just have to do this.
It's a demon, okay?
Totally not a demon. Yeah. That's the Dark Mech theme that I'm going. So it's also all the bases. Everything's all dark and run down and stuff. And for the Tau is complete opposite. They're they're from, I guess it's a sept world where it's tropical, but they use it for training purposes because they're really hostile wildlife. But it's too small to really bother with terraforming. But it's perfect for practice missions. they send them out there and they're oh, go be stealthy, go hide in the jungle for a week or whatever. We'll pick up later. You'll be fine. And then they don't tell them, and then they have to prove themselves, and they come out.
Don't tell them there's giant monsters in the forest.
No, totally. They can deal with it.
Yeah.
But they're all stealthy bases, mostly stealth suits and ghost kills and stuff like that.
Very cool. Nice strong theme.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you have, this will be the final question, do you have an all-time favorite character in 40K or someone you aspire to be, maybe, in 40K?
I aspire to be alive in 40K.
The Emperor. No, the Emperor sucks.
Says the Dark Admech player.
Yeah, it's freaking
makes sense.
I don't know who I want to be, or who do I like the most. Honestly, Gazgul is one of my favorite characters. At least that y'all have done an episode on. He's definitely one of my top 3.
Yeah, he's so sweet.
He's just fun. It's but he's also cool. Abaddon is cool, but he's not fun. Yeah, it's
No, there's nothing fun about the Long War.
No, there's nothing fun about Abaddon.
Yeah, he's a great character. Cool. Well, thanks for everything that you do on our Discord channel. Thanks for always hanging out with us and chilling and just creating a nice spot for people to come and share their 40K.
Oh, I try.
Yeah. We can tell.
You're doing a great job, Taco.
Yeah, we always get so many positive, glowing reviews for Epic Taco.
I'm sure. All over Spotify reviews.
Yeah.
I haven't even left a review.
It's fine. Cool. Well, thank you so much, and on to the next one.
Thanks, Taco.
Onwards and upwards.
Well, hello to our next interviewee. Goes by the name Only One Bob on our Discord. Welcome, Bob.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Not your first time on Lorehammer either.
No, it is not. I have been on previously. I believe on one of our cheeky little Necrommunity segments.
Cheeky?
Well, we're glad to have you on. We just kind of want to talk to you about, that little thing we do together called 40K.
We know it well. That lovely little... I like to think of it as a financial investment. It's the only way I can it keeps its wealth.
Yeah, the investment word I hear a lot of people throw out casually like that, like it's just a meaningless word you can say like that. Invest in a car, invest in Warhammer.
It is an investment. It's just not giving you the return that it should give you.
Really not. Really not.
How did you get into
any day
Warhammer?
now? I see like those share prices increasing.
What was your first investment into 40K, Bob?
My first investment into 40K, I think I was like 12 years old or something, and it was Space Marines, Ultramarines specifically, and I just couldn't get into them. But that was my first foray into the 40K world, and then following on from that, I tried again like about 10 years later with some Khorne Demons, and again just didn't quite hit the mark.
Didn't quite take. Okay.
And then I started listening to you folks. About 2-3 years ago, I want to say.
And what got you? What finally sunk?
Genuinely, right? So when listening to the podcast, it was a combination of episode 1 and finding out about Malice, and the Abhuman episode. And I was like, wait a second. I can do whatever the heck I like. I don't have to do like Khorne Demons. I don't have to do like a specific thing that already exists. I can just make up whatever I want. So I did.
That's a pretty cool thing to realize that in 40K, like you can actually do anything you want, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the Abhuman episode was so crazy, man. All those weird scalies and long shanks.
Yeah.
Have you made any crazy Abhuman conversions for like any of these more exotic ones?
No, I have not. The furthest I got with that was I decided I wanted to do like an Abhuman, almost like, because basically, right, the way I saw it is Abhumans are just humans, right? So I think some sort of Dark Mechanicum could turn them into some sort of Astartes thing, or try to. I spoke about it in a piece of lore that I believe you folks read out as well. But that was literally my first foray into building recently, and it was the Little Sons of Malice Goat Men Astartes.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very cool. So you love Malal. What kind of appeals to you about him? Oh, and do you call him Malal or Malice?
I call it Malice. So, like, because Malal, I think, was the old fantasy, and I think in 40K they're quite strict on no, it's Malice. I think there's a weird copyright thing attached to it, to be honest.
That's what I've heard, for sure.
Get thrown around too much. So, yeah, and I think it's so open-ended. Do you know what I mean? There's no, like, here is Khorne. He definitely is a thing. This is what he looks like. Here is Nurgle. This is his gut. Whereas it's Malice, it's like, well, he might not even actually exist. Like, we're not entirely sure. But they sort of hint that he probably is, but even if he is, he's like chaos incarnate, so he didn't exactly do what people thought he was going to do. Do you know what I mean? It's just that nice, and it's that sort of freedom where you can kind of take it
True
in whatever
chaos.
direction you want to go.
True chaos that you could just explore.
Exactly.
So you've, like you said, you've been in our community for quite some time. You've been on the Discord. You're one of our lore helpers. What do you kind of do on the Discord? What do you enjoy? What kind of draws you to it?
I mean, I sort of like I take a part in the Necrommunity project, which it's been a little quiet on that front recently, but we're going to sort of kick it back off again because we kind of want to round it off for this year and actually get it all polished off. So if anybody is interested in hearing more about that, please jump into the Discord. Drop me a message because we can talk. We can talk.
Yeah, I said it to Matt when we had him, but like one of my favorite Lorehammer episodes ever was the Necrommunity where we built a hive city. It was so cool. Everyone needs to get involved. Just working with so many people on Necrommunity, it's just it's fun. You get other people's ideas, which brainstorm, boom.
Yeah, every idea that I've ever put in has only been made better by other people commenting on it as well. It's so cool to see that, like the community aspect of it.
Cool. So the future of Necrommunity, been a little slow, you said, but what's something you're looking forward to? Do you have what's the next thing you want to do on it?
So the plans that we've got in place at the minute is sort of we've built the world, we've sort of got the gangs. I'd love to see some people actually put the gangs on tabletop. That would be super cool.
Okay, yeah.
And I think what we're really looking for at the minute is just these little short stories. Think about your codexes and how it's sort of done out. You've got these like little snippets of story that sort of hint at a larger piece of information.
That's gonna be sweet, actually. Yeah, like there are so many authors in our Discord. Like there's gonna be 1,000 submissions. I can't wait for that. Maybe not that many, but yeah, man, that's gonna be sweet. Just like little lore blurbs.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, and the other thing we want to talk to you about is we've had this sweet little group of friends that are always chilling, always hanging out, and like a couple podcasts have sprung up from the Discord. And you're one of them. You and another lore helper named Jono.
Mm-hmm.
So Hobby Happy Hour, tell us about that.
So Hobby Happy Hour, I think what we wanted to do with it is basically focus on like I said before, that I think there's a lot of people that get into 40k that feel like they have to sort of fit within the molds that already exist. I think that we're sort of quite keen on, we talk about how you can accomplish the molds that already exist, the pre-existing armies, of which there are many. But yeah, we want to also sort of maybe like inspire people to do something a little bit different, like really sort of think outside the box a little bit and sort of take what is canon and lorically accurate, but then sort of maybe make it their own.
Yeah.
And go through sort of like more the hobbying side of it. We focus a lot on like how you can sort of achieve certain looks, things like terrain, things like basing.
I've seen some of your dioramas and they're just so cool. Like you did this one like Gene Stealer cherry blossomy one.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was one of my first ones. And I wanted to have a go at making white trees. So I did, and then I stuck some little happy little Gene Stealers up in there.
Yeah, that's cool because lots of shows would talk about painting miniatures. How do you paint Ultramarines? But how did you make that fucking tree? Now we'll know.
You will, yes, you will, and find us. You can find us on your favorite podcast listening thing. Hobby Happy Hour. Check us out.
Very cool.
Go find us.
Go check them out.
Yeah. Mark, we had you on an episode, and Eric, I have plans to have you on at some point as well, because you said you would, and now it's out there in the world.
Oh my gosh. You did promise that, didn't you?
Yeah, you did. That's right.
Cool. Well, this was great. Thanks, Jono, for everything that you've done for our community. It's cool. Like, you keep the Discord going, and it's fun just getting to meet all you people. I love it. So.
It's fun. I mean, I'm Bob, but I can see how you can make the.
What did I say?
I can see how you get us mixed up. I am, a surly Australian.
That's so crazy. I hope we edit that out just so I don't look like an embarrassed.
Please don't. Please leave it.
Okay. Well, that's life, I guess.
Jono will be so happy to know that you thought Bob was him.
Yeah, that's. Let's end this. I'm embarrassed now. I'm sad.
Well, Bob, thanks for being a part of our community and. Being taking an active role in our Discord, and I know people really appreciate the community. So keep on keeping on.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Colin, for having us. It's been great.
Nice.
Holy fuck! Oh, that's crazy.
And welcome to our next interview. We have Woody, who is obviously a familiar name to people who have been around for a long time, because he's been around for a long time. So,
welcome.
Hello.
Woody. Hey.
Thank you. It's good to be back. I was really excited to do this. It has been a really long time. I was actually thinking about that yesterday.
Last time we had you on was on like one of our Lorehammer lockdown episodes.
Yeah, that was a wild time.
Do you remember 2 years ago how this whole pandemic started and we're still in it? Good thing we didn't keep doing daily episodes because that probably would have killed us, I think.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that too. And, it was hey, we're going to do an episode a day, 2 weeks, we're all in this together. And yeah, that was 2 years ago. That was crazy.
What a world. Yeah, man, but you've been in the Lorehammer fucking community for a while. What kind of keeps you around for so long, man? It can't be me. It can't be.
Honestly, it's you, it's Eric, it's everyone. I kind of mentioned this the last time I was on that, I started listening to you guys because I liked 40K and I liked the lore and what you guys are doing, which is still true today. But honestly, you guys have evolved from just some dudes talking about Warhammer in a garage to a legitimate community. And that's kind of what has kept me around. Life gets in the way. So you take breaks and then come back.
Yeah, that seems to be the way of it, eh? Just the kind of waves of engagement.
Yeah. And it's definitely a lot harder because I had to move. So I'm in Japan now and the time zone difference. So it's a little bit harder because it seems like the majority of the community is on while I'm sleeping. But honestly, I think that's what's kept me is obviously the content and you guys and the friends that I've made from way back when I started listening to you guys in North Dakota. But yeah, the community and the content and stuff is what's kept me coming back.
What's like the Warhammer scene in Japan like? Have you kind of got to see much of it, or?
There's where I'm at in northern Japan, there's not a terrible amount that I've noticed. The majority of it is like the other Americans that are here with me. Gundam is huge here, so I've kind of had to shop the Gundam scene for Warhammer stuff. The closest GW to me is in Tokyo, so like 6.5 hour drive.
Oh my god!
Perfect evening drive.
So there's like right outside the gate, there's a tiny little hobby shop that has like some paint and like the Necron little beginner start painting set.
Sure.
It comes with like the one model.
So you have 1,000 Necron warriors just by buying that box over and over. It's all you can do.
Just got to practice, prime black, paint silver, prime black, paint silver, rinse, repeat.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's just that easy, Eric.
I hear painting Necron is hard. Okay.
Yeah, it's difficult unless you have just a legion of their basic infantry. No, I would still find a way to like make that take forever. But yeah, the scene here is, like I said, it's not as big as what I was used to. But I still have found a way to come up with 1 million models and throw them in my pile and never paint them.
Distance can't keep you from Warhammer.
Yeah,
this is true.
The pile of shame continuously grows, whether or not you have access to 40K.
Yeah.
So have you, are you still doing your Ultramarines? Is that your primary kind of, we'll call it the investment in the hobby?
Yes, actually. Still doing Ultramarines. Like I said, it's not huge here, so I haven't got a lot, but what I do have, I'm still trying to do Ultramarines. I did buy a Thunderhawk the other day.
Heck yes!
Well, I say the other, so I don't know what's going on with that, but
and you bought like a full scale Thunderhawk, eh? Not just like an Aeronautica one.
Yep, I went to Forge World and I bought the the $700 Thunderhawk, and immediately had buyer's remorse.
Absolutely.
But I was super excited about it, and then I got an email like 2 weeks. So we'll figure that out when we get to it. But thanks for your money. So
that thing is gonna be just a crazy situation to build. I've built some of the Forge World Storm Eagles, and they're awkward, man. I can't imagine a Thunderhawk.
Yeah, I'm excited but also terrified.
What do you think the biggest model you've built is?
The biggest model I've built and completed is my Knight.
Okay.
The biggest model that I've started is the Storm Raven. I purchased that
nice
right before I came here, but it's not fully built yet.
Yeah, man. They're crazy. Those resin models to put together are just something else.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. I don't know. What else is there 40K up in the hizzle?
Like I said, not a terrible amount. It's a very big Gundam community. I'm finding that out, which I'm very okay with. I have found that I really, really enjoy Gundam.
Is there anything else to the hobby of Gundam? I know you can build it, and I know people kind of put decals on it, but do people ever paint them or take it kind of to the next level?
Yes. So I have found they're called paint pens, and it's like a lacquer type paint that comes in a pen, and it's really weird because you just color on it as if you have a Sharpie and you're coloring it in with that. But yeah, people, just like with 40K, there's different levels. Some people just clip them and it's all push fit.
Yeah.
So it's not you're not gluing anything. Some people just do the paint pen. Some people go the extra mile and do the airbrushing. And I even saw this one lady who was making her own, she was using the parts that came in the model as a form to make her own parts so that she could then paint them, weather them, etch them. Etching is a thing.
Etching.
People buy special knives just to etch their pieces.
So add damage to it and
add damage, yeah, add lines. Line the panels basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's different grades with Gundam, right? There's high grade, perfect grade, master grade, and it I don't really know the order, but it goes from very simple, you kind of put 10 pieces together all the way up to you're putting 16 different pieces into one finger of the Gundam, so that each Gundam's finger is, articulated in 13 different places.
Wow.
Whoa. And yeah, it's no glue, hey? It's all just kind of...
Yeah, no glue. It's all push to fit, click to fit.
I might have to buy a Gundam one day. I remember when I was a little boy, one of my friends had a couple Gundams. And I wanted to touch them, but he's like, those are models, you can't. So I never got to fondle them. So
yeah, they're fun, and I play with them, and I have them displayed in my house, and me and my daughter will play with them oh, let's have our little Gundam battles. But yeah, that's big here. I did find that acrylic paint on the Gundams is it's not as neat or clean.
Doesn't stick to the plastic very well or something like that.
It does, but it the finish is not as nice. It's got to be the lacquer paint, or if you put a glossy type clear coat on it. Yeah, it's fun. I do wish, so they have found a way to make mold lines non-existent in the Gundam parts, and it's really amazing to not have to clip and then scrape a whole panel of mold lines. You just kind of take care of where you clipped it.
Yeah.
So GW could learn a thing or two from that, but
so since you're gotten to the Gundam modeling, or you have been, do you watch any of the animes or read the mangas?
I've started watching the anime again. It's hard. The Gundam anime is very old. Where I'm at right now, I'm trying to watch it in chronological order.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot. And it's old and it's very dated. Like the actual animation is dated, but it's fun. They're doing a new series, Origins, where it's like the precursor to everything. And that's pretty fun to watch, but just trying to watch everything else is like, I'll watch a couple episodes and be like, I gotta stop. I can't.
Just too much.
Yeah. You notice a lot of things like it's, a 20-minute episode is realistically like the same 4 scenes over and over and over. But sometimes they'll change the color. One of the battle scenes you see in the very first episode is just recycled every episode, sometimes with a different color, sometimes with a different background, which I get for the time. It made everything easier, but it's like, man, this is tough to watch.
Jeez. Yeah, very cool. I'm gonna have to watch a Gundam one day. I keep saying I will, and then I never do. But
well, I have a recommendation then for you, Mark.
Okay, lay it on me.
Gundam 00.
Okay, got it. I'll put it on the list of things. Whatever that means, it's on the list now.
Perfect.
I'm gonna have to watch it too. I've heard of that one, but I haven't watched it. And there's a ton of them.
There's so many.
Some of them are so there's the Universal Century like storyline, and that's like their main story. And then there's like all these offshoots like Iron-Blooded Orphans and
yeah, I heard that one was really good. That's the one I seem to think most people recommend to me.
Yeah, that one has been recommended to me a lot, but I'm trying to watch it through the Universal Century because that seems to be the most like.
Yeah. So enough about Gundams. What about the Discord? What a segue. Yeah, like you've been on the Discord for a long time. What do you get your fingers involved with on here?
So, excuse me, sorry. I wish I participated more in the Discord with like the events stuff. I've kind of thrown my hat in the ring, but just the time zone and my life, especially with my job, it makes it very hard. But
your joy comes from enforcing rules upon noobs, I think. Make sure no one's doing anything sketchy.
I like to be the dad, if you will. And historically, if you upset me, I like to flex my. I've been in part of Lorehammer for a really long time. I like to flex that I've been on now 2 episodes. So, and I was talked about in the first couple.
Yeah, man, you got the fucking hardest flex of them all. You're like, yeah, when they asked for some microphones, I gave them a couple $100, and without me, they couldn't do any of it. So,
essentially, I am the reason that Lorehammer is a thing.
You are Lorehammer. Yeah.
I kid. I like the Discord because, when I first got on the Discord, it was just us playing Minecraft, right? Just like, hi, I barely know you guys, but let's play some Minecraft. And then we kind of stopped doing that, and I didn't come back to it for a long time. And then when I came back, it was like, oh, look at this community. I love the Discord. I will be 100% honest. I never knew what Discord was until I got, with you guys and Lorehammer. But I've made a lot of really good friends on it, to the point where anxious nerd, right? So, we were at one point before COVID got really bad. I was like, hey, I'm going to go to Japan. And she's like, oh, hey, me and my husband are going to go to Japan. And I was like, yo, let's meet up. So, I was going to, again, COVID happened, but I was going to meet up with her in Tokyo and, just kind of hang out for a day while she did whatever and I did whatever.
Yeah. And I'm sure that still will happen eventually. I know a bunch of people have ended up meeting each other through just Yeah.
Hopefully it'll happen. I know a lot of people have become really good friends and have started their own little hangouts or whatever through the Discord. But back to your original question, sorry. I typically stay in like the general and then the work in progress chats. I love seeing everyone's models. I love like giving what advice I can, or just even being like, yo, that's a really cool model. We have a ton of really talented artists and kit bashers and just hobbyists in every sense of the word. And I love seeing it. I love seeing the familiar faces. You got Bob, Jono, Ursats, Ovleron, Anxious, Emma, all these people, Courtney. And I just, it's like, it's really, I've never met any of these people and I only know some of their names, but I just feel like I'm just so excited whenever they talk. Like I brought up Anxious, she kind of left the server for a while and then came back, and I was legitimately excited that she was back. I like looked at Marcy, my wife, and I was like, oh my God, Anxious is back. And she's like looking at me all crazy because she's like, you don't even know her name. And I'm like, well, that's true, but
I don't need to.
She's back and she's, an awesome person. But, the Discord, it's become a place that I would say almost like a retreat, right? Like when life is getting really crazy, I'll just kind of hop in there. And even when I'm at work, I'll be scrolling on my phone and seeing everyone on the voice chat and playing games and stuff. And I love what it's become. And I love that there's only been a couple times where there's been like negatives about it, right?
Like the entire time we've had the Discord going, I've only banned 2 people. One time was for fun, another time was actually a serious incident. But that's a lot of we have a lot of people come through here, and like it's always so peaceful and good. Like we're just a bunch of chill people who like 40K.
Yeah, it's a really nice thing, especially lately with the hobby and some of the news and stuff you're hearing of the hobby. It's nice to be able to be like, you know what, all this outside stuff may be happening, but I know that I can hop into the Lorehammer Discord chat, say, hey, what's up, and have people be like, oh, hey, let's have this conversation. And one of my favorite things to do is actually when I see a new person come in, and I love saying, hey, welcome to the Discord. You're going to have a great time. Feel free to shoot a message to me or anyone in the chat. It's so nice to be able to say, hey, if you shoot a question in here, you're literally going to have tons of people coming in and saying, oh, hey, here's the answer, or, oh, hey, welcome, or, oh, hey, great models. I love that feeling.
Yeah, man, it's been special. But yeah, like all you lore helpers, you've helped make it special. And that's why we wanted to have you on for this episode, like it's just, you're all our homies now. We've created this awesome little group and I'm so excited. I just want other people to come share it with us. So Woody, man, thank you so much. We kind of glossed over it earlier. Like you gave us a crazy donation in the beginning that helped us take it to the next level. And yeah, we just appreciate everything that you've done for us. So thank you so much, Woody.
Yeah, we do.
Well, you guys are very welcome. And, it was an investment on my end that has paid dividends a million times over because you guys have literally been with me around the world, right? So I moved to North Dakota to Baltimore, that job where I traveled all over the world, and then, Baltimore to Japan. You guys were always kind of like my comfort food, right? Just
always whispering in your ear.
Yep, pop my headphones in and listen to you guys just talk and have a good time. And so thank you guys again for doing this. It's been a crazy ride, but I've loved every single minute of it.
Heck yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
Well, that's that. Thanks again.
Thank you for sharing, Woody.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Wow, what a awesome bunch of people. I was super happy that they all made time to chat with us a little bit.
Unfortunately, we weren't able to talk to a couple, but it's all good.
It didn't work out for everyone, but we got a lot of people, and I think that you can realize the quality of people that are there. And so the ones that didn't even make it, I mean, they're just as awesome people that are part of our Discord. So
So we're gonna read off our Patreons here, and thank you all of you for supporting the show, and then that'll be that.
All right. So we have thank you to Benin, Carl, Bruce, Glintlock, Chris, Andrew, S, Duik, Brock, Budlong, Logan, Brad, Matt, Jesse, Macariel, Hilux, Anthony, Savy, Thomas, Shamrock, Jumi, Taylor, Cameron, Nene Skachow, Musetti, Michael or Michelle, and Charcuterie. This will be the last time that you hear Patreon names.
Yeah, man. Wow. I can't believe it, man. Thanks to everyone who has supported the show. I cannot even believe that we made a single fucking dollar off this, Eric. Incredible.
Yeah, it's awesome to know that people see enough value to participate. So
yeah. So this is the final goodbye. You can still support the show. Like, if you're listening, if this was the first episode, now you're going to go back and listen to all 99. Don't forget to support us still.
Yeah, and don't be scared to still message us, or like on Instagram or Facebook, or more likely on the Discord. Those Mark and I are still going to be hanging out.
Yeah,
we're still going to be participating. So just because,
if anything, I'm going to be more active now because I'll be down in Panama and I won't have very many English-speaking friends. So definitely send me a message still. I'm going to need you guys down there.
Yeah, just because we aren't putting out new episodes doesn't mean we don't want to still hang out with everyone who's a part of the Lorehammer experience. So
yeah, man. So thank you all so much. Don't forget to come check me out on Pillow Talk with Mark and B, or if you just are a 40K guy, come check out Lorehammer Listener Lore.
Yeah. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you to our guests on the show. Honestly, I think probably someone we need to thank most is, when we started the show, we actually had another member, Jordan, and we had him on for our Emperor.
99th,
our episode on the Emperor, and that was kind of just a desire to bring him back, complete the circle. And it was, that just floods me back with memories of being recording with him and stuff. So thank you, Jordan. You know what? If it wasn't for you as well, we probably wouldn't have even attempted the podcast. It was your technical knowledge really that, kind of gave us an opportunity to do this. So
yeah. Thank you for everyone who gave time, money, effort, whatever. We love it. We appreciate it all.
Yeah, sorry we don't have time to list every single person's name who's made the show a success. But yeah, honestly, it's been a journey. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Eric. You're my homie. I'm gonna miss you.
I love you, Mark.
I love you too, buddy. I guess signing off for the last time. How do we do this?
I don't know, man.
Fuck.
Okay, I guess we'll see you guys later.
See you on the flippity flop.